Hello, everybody. We're going to be doing chapter 13 through 15, hopefully today. And I gave up on the live stuff because it's too hard to figure out, at least for right now. So we're going to just do recorded podcasts. And it might work out better, and I won't torture Mark. So that'll work out better. So, how's it going, Mark?
Pretty good.
Yeah, so a lot of busy work lately, and my eyes and your eyes were both kind of caught whatever was going on out there. So what's chapter 13 about? Which you read ahead, so
Well, this is a pretty well-known, this is probably one of the more well-known chapters in the book of Numbers. You do hear sermons on this and people talk about it, small group, whatever. It makes a good chapter for like a men's group kind of thing
oh goody.
because it's about I mean on the surface it's kind of about courage and fear, but as I was looking at this week, I think there's a lot more going on than what I previously thought. But this is, they call it the spies going in the land, but they're kind of searching out the land or surveying the land, really. So these 12 people are chosen to, they actually enter the so-called promised land in the land of the Canaanites, and they go just to see what it's like, you know. So, and we'll see what
So,
happens.
well, hopefully they made it out well. So,
Should make
just
a
the
good
five
movie,
of
by the
them?
way.
Huh?
What's that? It'd
It's
make a
just the
good
five?
movie.
I know. Well, all of this stuff is so fascinating. I'm like, I could pick any one of these characters and just, it's so hard. I mean, I guess if anybody filthy rich oil people want to fund all my movies, and I'll make them really fast. If not, I have to kind of,
Well, I think if you made a movie about Joshua, it'd be a pretty high budget,
yeah,
you
which
know.
I have zero budget. So what do I do?
It's worthy of a big budget action movie, actually, Joshua. Because everyone does movies on Moses,
Yeah.
and we all know that story, but Joshua is like more relatable in a way. He's like this normal guy. He's put in this position, which in now really we start learning more about Joshua, and he was in Exodus a little bit as well, but now he kind of starts to come to he's the next leader. He takes over after Moses, which
Any of these
and
war
even
movies would be kind of awesome to do because they're not like modern day warfare. He kind
yeah.
of picks and choose almost the weakest to go send them out and have these victories. I mean, I would love to do one in the Middle East somewhere. When I went to the film market in Las Vegas
Hmm.
last week, so they had these commissions for different places you can film in United States, outside of United States, and there was one, I think it's called Eula, I don't know, in Saudi Arabia somewhere, and it was so beautiful, just their posters, everything, and it was like, it is a desert, but their landscape plus the sky and all, like the old world kind of charm. So it looked really beautiful, and I thought, one of these stories could be awesome there. But then it has its own history, which I don't want to mangle because it's super possible that I might be filming in today's version, like, oh, it's so cool, but in biblical narrative, history already happened there, which I would mangle completely. But I think doing Joshua would be an awesome story just for aesthetic and, Middle Eastern kind of thing. But it all comes down to budget because I already screwed myself over with this film. So now the next one, I need people to fund it.
Well, there
But
are people sitting around out there with lots of money who just want to fund and finance movies. That's what they do. They're looking for where they got all this money, they don't know what to do with it,
they
and
can
they,
send it over here. I know what to do
yeah,
with it. I
but
know
they
how to
need a
spend
return
money.
on their investment.
Yeah, well, that's the hard
So
part because even this current film, I'm looking for distribution. That's why I went out to the film
it's
market.
kind of it would be kind of like Dune, you know.
Oh, yeah. Dude, they probably took a biblical story and made it into sci-fi something.
It
But
is kind of it kind of is, yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
but it is super beautiful. I mean, the landscape and history over there, just with the Israelite, not the Israelite, but all the zones that everybody had back then, how the land was divvied up, including wherever this is going, Canaanite, right? I think we should probably look up exactly
oh,
where.
I have a map somewhere.
Oh, let's see the map.
But basically, they went from the south to north. They surveyed the whole country of Israel, modern day Israel, even
Yeah.
bigger than that. They went up and down. They basically went up and then they came back down,
Yeah,
north and south.
but
So,
all of these places were connected, like how they
and
did the trade, right?
if I can find that, and then they went to called Horeb. They went to all the places Abraham. They went to the place where Abraham is buried and all this kind of stuff. Let's just read it and see
Yeah.
what happens.
All right. So
All
chapter
right.
13.
You
Um,
ready?
yeah,
Ah.
you're always the best
All right.
reader, so I'll leave that to you.
All right. No, I'll try. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, send out for yourself men so that they may spy out the land of Canaan, which I am going to give to the sons of Israel. You shall send a man from each of their fathers' tribes, every one a leader among them. So this is like a new batch of people.
Yeah.
It's not like the leaders of the tribes necessarily. So Moses sent them from the wilderness of
Of
Paran
Paran.
at the command of Yahweh, all of them men who were heads of the sons of Israel.
So
All
can
right, so
we
they're kind
just
of like
look up
leader.
where Paran is?
Yeah, it's south of like Israel, modern day Israel.
All right.
It's not a huge region actually. I mean, for me, like I do look at these things up and then it's always not quite as interesting as I thought it would be.
Because it's
To
just
be
a
honest, you're
desert.
like, it's not that large of a place, really.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, what
but
I'm curious about is like how the countries divvied up now, like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iran, whatever. So like those people, um, that's the tribe that ended up, living there and conquering it. And these were all the same people. Like they go by different names, maybe. But I would love to know who the Canaanites were.
we're gonna talk about that today
All right,
because
great.
they're mentioned.
Okay.
Um, these were their names from the tribe of Reuben, Shamua, the son of Zakur. Now Reuben was the firstborn of Jacob,
Yeah.
FYI, which comes into play later on. From the
Yep.
tribe of Simeon, Shaphat, the son of Hori. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. So there's Caleb from Judah. Okay,
Yeah.
now he's one of the heroes. Spoiler alert.
Mhm.
From the tribe of Issachar, Igal, the son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, the son of Nun. Now Hoshea is actually Joshua, and his name
Uh,
is going to be changed in a minute. So that's Joshua. So that's why they're in yellow, because they're the kind of two heroes of the story, you could say. They had faith, whereas the others were rebelling. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, the son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel, the son of Sodi. From the tribe of Joseph. From the tribe of Manasseh, Gidi, the son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, the son of Gamali. From the tribe of Asher, Sether, the son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, the son of Vophshi. From the tribe of Gad, Geuel, the son of Maki. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. But Moses called Hoshea, the son of Nun, Joshua. Oh, Moses changed his name.
Oh.
I thought God did.
So what does
So in this,
Joshua mean versus
well, Joshua's
Hosea?
Yeshua. That's Yeshua. That's Jesus,
Oh,
and it's exactly the same in Greek as Jesus's name in the Greek New Testament.
and what
So
did
it kind of means save, the one who saves or God saves. Yes, yes. When it's like a J at the beginning, that's really more like a Y, which is same as Yahweh.
and
You
what
know,
about Hosea? What did
like
that mean?
Yosef, Joseph is not really Joseph. Hosea, hopefully this tells, no, I don't know what that means.
All right.
But that was just
Well,
his original name. That's his real name. And then they changed it to Joshua.
okay.
Anyway, so these are the 12 people. They're probably pretty young, they're over the age of 20, I would imagine,
Yeah.
but probably in their 20s. So Moses sent them to spy out the land. Now, some people may choose a different word for this, more like searching out or surveying the land
Yeah.
of Canaan, really is what it is, Canaan, and said to them, go up there into the Negev, then go up into the hill country and see what the land is like. All right. Now, this land idea is very important. The theme of the promised land that God is giving them, right? And they're going to go
So
check it out,
if God
see
is
what it's
giving it
like.
to them, why do they need to know what it was like? I would think that they
I don't
should
know.
seek out what the people were like, because the land was going to be good if God was saving it for them.
I think it's kind of a test or something.
Hmm.
That's a good question. Let's see if maybe by the end of the chapter or the end of today's episode, we'll have an answer for that.
Mhm. All right.
It is a good question. So it says, so here's his instructions. See what the land is like and whether the people, so that's the first thing, see what the land is like, and they're
Yeah.
going to report back to the
Right.
people.
Yeah.
Um, whether the people who live in it are strong or weak. Okay, second thing, and whether they are few or many. Now, I think they do answer these questions when they come back, but the question is, are they being honest or are they being deceitful? Are they lying or telling the truth? That's an
You
issue when
mean
they come back.
the spies that
The
got sent
12
out?
spies, yeah,
Why would they be dishonest? Aren't they just kind of doing their job?
they're remember, there's been a lot of rebellion over the last few
Um,
chapters. So these Israelites are
so they're like double agents.
rebellious people. They're
Yeah.
rebellious people.
Well, hopefully they'll come
Even, I
back.
mean, what's funny to me, I mean, yeah, well, I'll talk about that later, maybe when we actually see them rebel again. But it is funny how they just spent like the last year getting all the, the Torah, all the laws, the teaching, instruction, God Himself through Moses telling them what to do, how to live. You know, it's like the ultimate Hebrew roots summer camp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then did it work? Did it do any good at all?
Well,
Just immediately they're rebelling against it.
yeah, because they got tired of the food. They got tired of the manna. I think that was like the first weakness, like the food. Little sidetrack. So, when I was looking up all the Saudi Arabia stuff, what was
Mhm.
really interesting about their history is that when all the kings changed and all that stuff, ultimately when they got like super wealthy with all the oil money, the first thing they did was totalitarian rule. All the wealth took care of all the people. No taxes, nothing that they had to worry about. Everything was provided, housing, food, whatever they wanted. And in return, people had to worship the king who did all this. So it
Sounds
kind of
familiar.
reminds me of like how is this could look like for this future kingdom that's coming worldwide. So the money
Well,
wasn't
you
the
gotta
issue.
worship Trump already. If you don't worship Trump,
Yeah.
you're ostracized.
Well, that's a whole other, oh my God, there's so many stories about him. I, you
That's
know,
all right.
I think but I think the point of that story with Saudi Arabia as an example, they took care of the people financially with no, like, the kingdom was like, it was truly their little kingdom. So people didn't have to worry, or, they probably still work, but they didn't have to worry about money. So imagine if the currency, they're not really trying to change the currency or preserve the currency. Let's just say they just wanted to take care of all the people and have no currency. Can you imagine
Well, it
that?
sounds like communism or something.
Yeah, it is. But like the people were happy because they didn't ever have to worry about anything, right? Because they're like free healthcare, no taxes.
But they're kind of like serfs, though, probably.
Yeah,
They weren't wealthy either, though. I mean, that's like in North Korea is probably kind of like that. You know what I mean?
right. But the
Um,
only difference between North Korea and Saudi Arabia is the amount of wealth that's being shoveled
yeah,
around. So
yeah,
North Korea is kind of poor because they starve their people, right? But
yeah,
Saudi Arabia just gives them money. And that kind of, so it just kind of, the wealth, if there's more wealth that these big companies are creating, they could turn around and say, well, that's where the basic income idea comes from.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we just give you money, you live happy, and we'll just take care of everything.
But then they control you and they want to use
Yeah,
us as lab
exactly.
rats now. That's the
Right.
problem.
All right, back
Anyway,
to
that's relevant.
well, I don't know why that got triggered, but anyway, yeah.
All right. So see what the land is like, if the people are strong or weak, and if there's few or many. That's their job, right? And how is the land in which they live? Is it good or bad? Okay, that's kind of a fourth thing related to the first one. And how are the cities? I'm going to highlight that in which they live. Are they like open camps or with fortifications? All right. So
Yeah.
this is kind of just strategic. They need to know what it's like before they invade, basically,
Well, that makes
you know,
sense because
to put
any
it in
country,
military terms.
yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of that spy balloon that was going around a couple
Yeah.
of
They
years
didn't
ago.
have spy balloons back then, so they
Yeah.
had to send these 12 guys.
We might be
All right.
getting ready soon then, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. So how is the land? Is it fat or lean? Are there trees in it or not? Make an effort then to go to get some of the fruit of the land, which they do.
Yeah.
Now the time was the time of the fruit, the first ripe grapes. You remember they're basically moving in, right? They're going to move
Yeah.
there, so they've never seen it before. They've heard about it. It's like when you move somewhere, you do go check it out first, right?
Yeah.
So
So they're
they're
doing
going
their
to see,
job. But
yeah, they're moving there, so they want to see what it's like, and then they can tell all the people, so they know what it's like in detail, like actual feet on the ground. They can explain to the people exactly what it's like.
yeah. So is this story already happened where the Canaanites were given a lot of time to move out of that area because all their houses were moldy? Like God brought mold into all that region. Did we already read that?
No, that might be something like in Joshua or something.
Okay.
Joshua's more like the nonstop battles and stuff, war narratives.
Yeah, so
Um,
God did try to get rid of the Canaanites. He prepped the land a little bit before this was happening. So that could have been a different story. But
well, yeah, we're gonna see. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so they went up and spied out the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehov at Lebo Hamath. And basically, like if you just think of modern day Israel, they went from the north to the very south to the no, they went from the south to the very north and
yeah,
then back down. Um, Pretty long way actually, and there's 40 days they were there.
yeah,
Um, and they had gone up into the Negev and came to Hebron, where that's where Abraham used to go and is buried, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai. Okay, the descendants of the Anak were.
so who are they the
Well,
Anunnaki thing? Descendants of
no, that's not really a biblical name exactly.
Yeah,
But it's they're the Anakim. They're the descendants of Anak. We're going to
yeah.
hear more about them. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. Okay, now actually before I forget, I have to prepare this little guy here. Um,
So are those different tribes of Canaanites or still the Israelites? They
these
gone
are
up to
Canaanites. These are
Negev.
Canaanites.
Okay.
Yeah, these are Canaanites. Um, yeah. Okay, so oh, that thing's moves if I do that. Interesting. Okay. All right. So now maybe we can talk more about the Anakim because they come up again. All right.
Who? The
So yeah, they're going to be mentioned again. Okay, so
so what
they're
did
in the
they?
land, and so far they've seen these people. Okay. Anyway, any questions?
Well,
We're
who
going
are
to hear more
the
about them.
Anak? Who are they?
We're gonna hear more about them. Let's just leave
All
it
right.
there for now. Um, then they came to the valley of Eshcol, and from there cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between two men with some of the pomegranates. Is that it? How do you say it?
Pomegranates.
Pomegranates.
Yeah.
We I eat these, but I speak the local language, so I forget a lot of English names of fruit. And
Figs.
figs. Now, figs, where they always say land flowing with milk and honey.
Yeah.
I read something. They said the milk is talking about goats or
Mm-hmm.
the milk from the livestock, and then the honey is talking about the figs,
Oh.
the
Yeah.
sweetness of the figs. Maybe, I don't know, but
Well, it is interesting, the figs, the forbidden fruit. You know how they
mhm.
keep saying it's an apple or whatever, but I think it actually could have been figs because the first thing that happened after they ate it, they covered themselves up with fig leaves. So that indicates that's what was
Ah,
there.
that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's such a popular fruit in the region and in the Bible. Even they talk
Yeah.
about it a lot. All right. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster from which the sons of Israel cut down from there. Let's see what that means. Cluster. It means cluster.
Yeah.
They called it cluster because it had a cluster. They're pretty
Ooh.
creative. Um, so they saw some of these people here, and these are like people's names, but they're probably the name of the clans maybe as well. Not
Yeah.
just three people. They didn't just see these three people, I don't think. I think they saw the three clans of people, but I don't know.
Yeah, the tribe, the sub-tribe or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's probably uh, was very fertile area because they got grapes, right?
Well,
Um,
that's what God said it was, right?
yeah. So we have
Yeah, it sounds
like
pretty good
orchard.
so far.
Yeah, it definitely is a prosperous place because whenever you have grapes, figs, and pomegranates, I think that usually means it's uh, prosperous and fertile.
Yeah, and the only problem is maybe these people here, um, but otherwise the land itself seems, that was one of the main things. Look at how many times the word land is used, right?
Yeah.
Land, 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 fruit. So basically, the land and the people they're supposed to check out, right?
So
And
we're really talking about northern Israel then, if that's where they went up to.
yeah, they did go up to the top of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which doesn't that like border Jordan and places like that?
I guess so. Yeah, yeah. They went. If I can find that map, I'll show it later.
All right.
Um, then they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days. Okay, so there are 40 days. They come back, and really all we hear about is these people and the fertile land
Yeah.
so far. And it went and came to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. Now, this is kind of where they're camped out right now, which is south of Israel. And they brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land.
So they can't
Okay.
lie there because they brought back the
Well,
fruit.
They can.
How? You
They
think they
do.
did? Oh,
They do. We're going to just read what it says, and
all
see what
right.
it means. Thus they recounted to him, him is probably Moses, and
Yeah,
said, "We went into the land where you sent us, and it certainly does flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit." Okay, so they have a good thing to say about the land right there.
yeah.
It does flow with milk and honey, and this is the fruit, right? Okay. Um,
Which is what God said it
nevertheless,
was.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Nevertheless, the people who live in the land. Okay, so the land is good, but the people who live in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. And moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there.
Oh.
or, or the yeah. So okay.
So you think that's related to Anunnaki language that people use?
No,
No.
I don't know anything about that, but it's this I
All
know
right.
about the Anakim. We're gonna look at the Anakim.
All right.
Um, in fact, I have a let's see here. Anakim. I'll get that ready there. Um, Amalek. Amalek.
Yeah.
Amalek is living in the land of the Negev, and the Hittites. So here's some of the Canaanite tribes. The Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites are living in the hill country, and the Canaanites are living by the sea and by the side of the Jordan.
So they're not Canaanites. The
No,
first.
well, it's kind of like overall they're called like they're all called Canaanites. You could some people would even class the Israelites in there. But then there seems to be one specific tribe also called the Canaanites in this context, where they're so it is a bit confusing. But you could say they're all like if like the 50 states of the United States, they're all
They're all
Americans.
Americans, but
But then like if you had one state that was also called America, then
yeah.
it'll be kind of confusing. I think it's kind of like that because sometimes they're all, you know, they're all referred to as Canaanites, but sometimes there's a specific group.
Is there
But
any
these
definitions on your thing there?
Yeah, I mean, you could study. I mean, most of these people have been mentioned before, like even back as far as Genesis. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, like right there, why did they separate it out?
well,
The
these are all different tribes,
tribes. They're
different groups of
tribes,
people.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So, and this is a different group of people as well, right here, the
Yeah.
way they refer to them. Yeah, and these are it tells you like their names, who they are, and where they live, basically. Living by
So
the
it's
sea,
kind
by the
of
side.
like the Canaanite hillbillies lived in the hill country, and then the wealthy ones live by the sea.
Well, maybe, yeah, yeah, could have been.
All right.
And then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, so there's Caleb,
Mhm.
Kalev, or whatever his name is. We should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we are surely able to overcome it.
Yeah,
Right?
he's being brave there. They just said it was strong in all these different tribes, but he thinks he can beat them. Did he go up there to spy too?
Yeah, yeah. He was
Oh,
mentioned already. That was up here. That's why I highlighted Caleb, and this is Joshua.
so he
And
thinks
then
he
there's,
can take them, right?
well, I mean, God promised to do it for them.
Yeah,
So he has faith, basically. And he has courage as well, but see, really it's the story about trust, right? It's about trust and faith. He believes God will keep his promises just like Abraham did, in the past. That's
yeah,
faith right here. This is faith. God promised that they would have this land. That's one of the
right.
main promises.
But he
So
hasn't
then
told them yet how that was going to happen.
and if you read like Galatians I think it's Galatians 3 or 4, the promise is actually more important than the law. The promise that the promise that God gave to Abraham,
No, that part
the
is,
fulfillment
yeah,
of it. So he's believing the promise right here. He has faith in the promise.
right. But he also, I mean, that's assuming if God told them that they were going to overcome it by force, like an army invasion.
Well, he told them they're going to inherit this,
Yeah.
they're going to live in this land.
All right.
But the men who had gone up with him said, "We are not able to go up against the people, for they are too strong for us."
So they had doubts, the other
Not
guys.
able.
Yeah.
And really they're saying they're too strong for God.
Well, yeah.
Because God has, I mean, up to this point, God has told them like 1,000 times, you're gonna, I'm gonna bring you into this land of milk and honey.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, it does have milk and honey, but we just don't think God can do it. But also what I think, okay, there's only a few more verses in this chapter, and then let's see what's really going on here. So so Caleb says, yeah, we can do it. But then these other guys, it's basically 10 of these other guys say, no, they're too strong for us. So they gave out to the sons of Israel a bad report. Now, what does that mean? A bad report is this same word is used in Genesis when, let's see, it's when the sons of when the sons of Jacob come back and tell him about Joseph. Joseph died. Joseph fell in the pit. They threw Joseph
Yeah.
into the pit. They use the same term, bad report. So it was true in that case. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a lie. It's just bad
No, I don't
news,
think it's a lie. I think it's just them, they're pessimistic.
Yeah. But
Like,
so they gave a bad report of the land,
yeah.
mainly because of the people, it sounds like, which they had spied out, saying the land. But now listen to what they say about the land here, though. And the land is really tied into the Sabbath rest. And it's really the kingdom of God is what they're talking. What will be it will be the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
You know, on earth as it is in heaven, right? The land which we have passed through to spy out is a land that devours its inhabitants.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean? And why would they say that? The land is flowing with milk and honey right here, but now it devours its
Well, it kind of
inhabitants.
reminds me of the earlier story with Genesis where the Nephilims, when they devour the land, devour the people, the men of great renown. So it kind of sounds like they're big and strong, and it says men of great size. They're probably
Well,
really
yeah,
tall.
yeah. Well, let's read the whole
Yeah.
thing now. All right. And all the people whom we saw in it are men of great size. Now it says all the people.
Yeah.
Now we're all the people of great size. That's the thing. I think they're kind of exaggerating I think they are exaggerating. They're being pessimistic and they're exaggerating and using a bit of hyperbole. The
I
land
don't
clearly
know
does not
because,
devour its inhabitants because it
yeah.
has all these it's a very fertile and prosperous land. So how can it devour its inhabitants? And all the people are men of how, I don't know that all the people were men of great size because in the
But
actual
the
narrative,
lost.
it says they saw these guys were tall, these guys were of great size here.
Okay, I think
So
I'm getting a little bit of this because I didn't even read the last sentence there, but that's where I was thinking the whole time that it related to the Nephilims.
well, let's read the
And
next verse and see what it
yeah,
says. There also we saw the Nephilim.
yeah,
The
the
sons
sons
of
of
Anak
Canaan.
are
Yeah,
part of the Nephilim. Now notice here though, see this part here is what these 10 guys are saying this, but this parenthetical statement here was probably added by the writer of the book of Numbers to clarify what that means, right? So they didn't say, as far as I can tell, I would imagine the 10 guys didn't say this part out loud. This is the writer clarifying something, but the people said the other part. They said this. So let's just read the whole thing. There also we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak are part of, or descendants is usually what it says, part of the Nephilim or descendants of the Nephilim. and we became like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight.
Okay, so basically he's describing that they were so big and then they were so puny in comparison that they felt like grasshoppers next to them,
Yeah.
right? Which, I mean, I'm not assuming that they're really telling a lie here. They're just maybe, like you said, exaggerating a bit. But it is curious because even before the last paragraph, I really thought the way they said it sounded just like the Nephilims in Genesis descriptions. And it just clarified that it was. So maybe the Anak, it says is part of the Nephilims, were actually large people.
Well, they were.
But
So
then,
this is the word Nephilim is this is the Hebrew word, right? That's exactly what it says in Hebrew, Nephilim,
yeah,
and
but
it's
that word,
three times. It's used three times in the Bible and twice right here.
yeah, but the creation of Nephilims were the hybrids of angel and humans,
Yes,
right?
Genesis
So
6.
I thought with the great flood, all of those were destroyed. So how can you have
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
descendants?
Nobody knows really. That's
Well,
the thing is
according to this,
I think there's a bit of truth. I think there's some truth in what they're saying, but I think
yeah,
they are exaggerating it because Caleb is not afraid of them.
no,
And
but he could also be like David, right? So David, when he saw the giant, like whatever, I'll just shoot it.
uh, Goliath is a descendant of the Enoch as well.
Right. So I don't know if they're really. I think what's happening is that Caleb is kind of like uh David in a way. He's courageous. He's like, yeah, we'll beat him. God is there, like you said. Would have faith. But the other guys are not sure because they just see the huge size. They see like the Goliath versions of whoever these were, right? So somehow these giants or men of like physically, they must have been big people, not the men of renown, which could be anybody. But
Yeah, Gibberim could be a human being, just a strong warrior. But a Nephilim seems to be a hybrid, right?
they are a hybrid. So this
I
is
mean,
kind
like
of very
so
curious.
here let's just look at this real quick. Yeah, this is a all I did here was do a search on the word giant in the KJV.
Yeah.
This KJV uses the word giant. It's about 20 times it appears. So Genesis 4, we know this one. The sons of God came into the daughters of men. These are angels in the book of Job, sons of God. And there's about a few other times they specifically mean not angels necessarily, but
Yeah, I don't think it's in
spiritual beings.
dispute that it was hybrid of angel human
Yeah. Well, the
offspring.
giant, see, the word giant here actually is Nephilim in the Hebrew. So
Yeah.
King James just calls them giants, and then the Greek is giant as well. But
But
here's the verse we just read. So King James just calls them giants, but
right.
it's Nephilim in the Hebrew, and then in the Greek it's giants. But here, okay, Deuteronomy 2:11, right?
Yeah.
Um, what happens if I let's see. Okay. Which were also counted giants as the Anakims. So the Anakims are not called giants, right? I want
Well,
to
no, they're
it
called the
actually
Nephilim.
says,
They're the
what's that?
descendants of Nephilims, Anakims.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but the Anakims are Anakims. They're sons of Anak. And who are Anakim? Anakim are descendants of the Nephilim, but they're also Anakim right now because there is a guy named Anak who they're
Yeah, I
named
mean, they
after.
could be like the sub-tribes of Nephilim, right? If they,
Basically there's a
yeah,
few different Nephilim.
sure.
There's
They could have been,
a few tribes that seem to be descendants of the Nephilim.
because it was like more than,
Um,
or 200 angels that rebelled, right? And they
no, I don't know
chose
about that.
women. Well, that's
I
what
don't
it
know.
said
I
earlier.
don't know how many angels rebel.
I think they did say 200. But
Not in the not in the Bible.
yeah, it did say in the Bible.
No, it doesn't say
Okay, anyway.
that.
Well, no, it
Anyway,
one third
That's
of
probably
the,
from the book of Enoch or something. But
oh,
then you got Og of Bashan, the remnant of the giants, right?
yeah,
Og of Bashan was a giant. He had this 9 cubit um, bed.
yeah, yeah,
Now, a cubit is a foot and a half. So
right.
that's like what, 15 feet or something. Og, Bashan, the land of the giants, remnant of the giants. So it's the same thing. A remnant of the giants is a descendant of the Nephilim, but they're called Rephaim. That's the point here. They're in the Old Testament. They're called Rephaim. The descendants of the Nephilim are called Rephaim in Hebrew, and sometimes you'll see it in the English translations as well. They'll just say Rephaim, but if you don't know what that means, you kind of miss it, right? So remnant
So
of the
they're,
giants
all right, so
is
they were
the lot.
giants, right?
And
Which
then but
hybrids.
then Valley of the Giants, the giant, and then it does say something about what's his name? Goliath is from this place, Goth. And so probably what happened I think is the Anakim moved to Goth, men of great stature, born to the giant. And this
Well,
is
maybe that's why
Goliath.
God had issues with them, right? Because that every time there was
Yeah.
anything that was going on with angel and human, you know, hybrid or whatever, he kept destroying that. Like he destroyed the whole earth and rebuilt it because of that. And then on the
Well,
Sodom
not
and
well, yeah,
Gomorrah,
but also I would say um not just that. I would say, I mean, if you look at it, um number 5, Yahweh saw that the evil of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thought of his heart was only evil continually.
yeah. But
So the flood
would
wasn't
that
just
have
to not see. That's the problem. Like on the internet or YouTube or something, everyone focuses on the Nephilim all the time, and then what happens is it's, oh, the flood was judgment on the Nephilim, and the people are, and if you're, as long as you're not Nephilim, you're a good person.
no, no,
That's the
that's
conclusion they
not it.
make.
I think it's because the corruption was so great, right? Because they were teaching
Yeah.
them that things. So, like, if you have angels, they already have more intelligence, more something than a regular human at that time. So when they started producing offsprings, you can see the imbalance already because you're not getting human to human. You're getting like, what the movies are all about, like
A
superpowers, right?
monster. Yeah, they're
Monster.
superheroes. And
Yeah,
also,
this
I think right here, so verse 3, this is Genesis 6. Why does he limit? I believe this is talking about limiting the lifespan of a human being. It's
yeah,
because
I do
people
too.
wanted to become immortal. Because
Yeah,
the sons of God are immortal, right? They're the immortals, and so the people thought, oh, we can become immortal if we have offspring. Our offspring will become immortal too, and then God limits the
right. So
lifespan.
imagine the technology and the knowledge that they already had to extend or do whatever. Um, yeah, I do. It is a cutting of our lifespan for human years, right? But
Yeah,
that's what they're trying to redo now with genetic engineering is to go back to
yeah,
some sort of immortality.
yeah.
But now it makes total sense why he was wanting to drive out or kill off the Canaanites because they
Yeah,
weren't,
I mean, it was abominations. They worshipped other gods. They claim these sons of God claimed to be gods. People were worshiping the sons of God. They were worshiping the Nephilim. They were the leaders. They were child sacrifice, transvesticism, all kinds of stuff. But they were worshiping other gods. Remember that verse I showed before in Exodus? Basically, if you worship other gods, you will be devoted to destruction. It's the
yeah,
first commandment. They were worshiping other gods. That's really the root cause of it.
right.
And then this is a symptom of all that. Because even most of the sons of God obey God. They obey Yahweh. But some
Well,
of them rebelled, just like the people are rebelling now. And in our story, and the Israelites are rebelling. some of these sons of gods, they
Didn't
also
it say
rebelled as
third
well.
of the angels rebelled? Yeah, it said it somewhere. I know I read it, so it had to
Yeah,
be.
I know what you're talking about.
So
It
what? That's
doesn't
not true
mean a
now?
third of them rebelled in this way. That's we don't have time to get into that. We'll
Well,
talk about that when we get to that passage.
all
But
right,
anyway, a lot, a certain, I don't know how many of them rebelled, but enough of them to
a third.
cause problems. And he regretted that he had made man on the earth. Amazing, isn't it? I
Yeah.
regret that I've made them.
Well,
But
because they followed the corruption, they stopped knowing
they,
about
yeah,
God.
they were, all these people were rebelling against God by, it sounds like they were kind of like, they weren't, the people were not just innocent victims of the Nephilim thing, they were willing participants, it sounds like, because the people
Well,
are being
yeah,
judged for
I
their
don't think they
sin.
were any different than what's going on now. They're participating in all kinds of evil, the same
Yeah,
stuff, right? I mean, the idea of manipulating genetic information to change people, it's
very
the
similar
same
to that.
thing, is what's,
Yeah. And there's a lot of hidden messages and movies and stuff that are talking about
yeah,
angel DNA being fused into people through an
yeah,
injection.
yeah.
I mean, it's through the fecal matter from fecal
Well,
matter of angels is seriously
well,
it
all
could
they
be the
need,
Nephilim DNA. They basically found it's like Jurassic Park. The dinosaurs are the Nephilim. They found the Nephilim DNA, and that's what they're doing now. Nephilim
yeah, well, a
DNA.
lot of movies are based on that concept, right? Even Prometheus and all
That's
these
what they're
things.
talking about. They're
Yeah,
talking about the Nephilim DNA. It
yeah.
wasn't dinosaurs. It was Nephilim DNA.
Well, I think ultimately, I think the mark of the beast will have some sort of genetic engineering connected to Satan himself. Because that's
Maybe
because
they
all
could
this
use an
talk.
mRNA. Oh, wait.
No, I can't say that. Come on now, I already got my. No, so the mark of the beast. So like we are the made in image of God, right? And the mark of the, it's not. It doesn't say mark of a man or anything like that. It says specifically mark of the beast. So I think that is an image of Satan. It's got to be like how we're made an image of God is going to transform itself into an image of Satan somehow. And
And the
I think,
transvestites, with their makeup, they are dressing up like Nephilim. I just realized because I have a video. I think I'll put it up this week that I finished. I went to a temple nearby, and there's a They have statues of Nephilim
hmm,
around all the temples here. In fact, they have statues of Nephilim guarding. They call them the demon guards or something. They're giants, and they look like scary clowns.
uh,
Um,
yeah, like,
I went there and made a video at the temple, and
some of the movies too. I think like the movie 300 or something when they travel to the kingdom.
there's always a giant in these
Yeah, there's
movies. Even
huge,
Game of Thrones had a giant, a
yeah,
couple of them.
and they guard the kingdom. Always these big giants. Anyway, so
Yeah.
where we should go back to Numbers.
Well, let's go to this. So anyway, this is kind of interesting. So it does connect the sons of Anak with
Tall as Anakim. So they were
the
all
Emim lived. This is Deuteronomy too. The Emim lived there formerly. A people as great, numerous, as tall as the Anakim. Like the Anakim, they are also regarded as Rephaim. Remember,
yeah,
Rephaim are giants, but the Moabites called them Emim. So
I mean,
anyway,
well, it's
yeah, I think
interesting that the Moabites knew them, right? So they were living among these Nephilims because the story of Ruth, she was a Moabite. So she would have known the
yeah,
reference to,
yeah. So they talk about these guys. I just haven't. I'm not. I think some of them were like the question I have would be, were all of them descendants of the Nephilim, or were some of them, or that kind of thing. It's still a bit unclear to me. Without, because on the internet, most people would say, "Oh, they're all just a bunch of Nephilim, and they had to be wiped out." And
well,
that's
that's
really our
only
struggle in
if
this
you,
life is us versus the Nephilim, and it's all about bloodlines. Well, I don't see that in the Bible. It's not about
well,
bloodlines. It's about
no,
faith.
it's not about,
Caleb had faith.
Yeah, but the bad report, if you keep that as truth and they're not actually lying, it does say all the people.
Yeah, but you know,
So then it's
but
all,
I think they're I think I don't
well, it's
well
got to
we'll see
reveal
what happens.
itself
Yeah.
somewhere. So,
Yeah, it will. It
all
will.
right. Well, let's keep
Um
going then. Because if you're believing that it's not a lie and they just want to exaggerate, I think you have to take that as truth then, that it meant
and also
whatever
keep
they
in mind
saw.
the context. Remember the last couple of chapters we read, there's always a rebellion, and there's rebellion in the chapters coming up as well. So it could be that what they're doing is they're spinning a narrative of fear to the congregation.
Well, yeah, they don't
And
want
it's
to
a
fight.
they're rebelling. It's like
Well, I don't know if
so
they're rebelling. I
it
think they're
could
just scared.
well, I'm just putting it out there like, hey, maybe they're not just scared. Maybe they want everyone else to be scared. They're like the CNN. They're the CNN.
Yeah.
They're saying, "Oh no, it's too scary. We can't go in there." And they want everyone to be afraid to rebel against Yahweh so they can go back to Egypt. Remember, they want to go back to Egypt.
Yes, but I think if you read verse 31, it sounds like, because I don't want to read more into it than what it actually says. And what it says is they were afraid that they were too strong for them. So then
Yeah, but
that's how they, huh?
Caleb's not, and Joshua's not.
Yeah, that's okay because they're, it's like, but you have a group of 12. There's some that are courageous and some that are going to be cowardice. So you had this group saying, okay, well, Caleb saying, we can do this. God promises this. But then the other men, maybe they didn't have that strong faith. They just saw big people. And I
And
don't think
notice
that.
it's a
So
group of
imagine if
12,
these
which is one
people,
Eleph.
oh no, there's no elephant going on here. Come on.
They sent one Eleph, 1 dozen people in there just by coincidence, and there's 12 tribes. Anyway, I
Okay,
just
but it
realized
is
that now.
12. They gave us a number. But I
There's
don't think they're
Twa.
necessarily lying. I think what it finally kind of clicking to me
It's
here.
not a flat out lie. It's an exaggeration. It's a embellishment. They're twisting the narrative to the negative side, to the fear side. Whereas
Yeah,
if
but
Caleb was the only guy who said anything, he'd be like, the land is great. Yeah, there's some tall people in there, but we can do it. Let's go. That would have been it.
yeah, but we're talking about Nephilim offspring that are still somehow around after the flood, which I don't know how
Well,
that
that's what they
happened.
said. That's what they said.
Yeah, but that's what the Bible says, right?
Well,
So,
that's what these guys said. No, that's what these guys said, and they're quoting them. There's quotation marks there.
yeah.
Are they telling the truth or are they
Well, don't the
uh
next chapters reveal like if they're telling the truth or not?
oh look at the people rebel.
Okay. They rebel because they were
There's a connection. I'm just
scared.
saying everyone in the world has heard about these Nephilim for the last 10 years and they only
Yeah,
hear one story where then the conclusion is Nephilim are bad, people are good. But now
Nephilim
look at
are
this. The
bad.
people are rebelling.
Well,
All
we're
right.
also
Some of these
wicked.
Nephilim guys, I don't trust them, and their theology is totally whacked. So anyway,
Yeah, but
I'm putting out
Nephilims are
there.
never good. You know that, right? Even if we're
I
bad,
know I'm not
but
defending the
Nephilims are
Nephilim.
never good because they were never meant to exist.
The people are never good either.
Yeah, but we were meant to exist. They weren't meant to exist. They have
I know
superpowers.
that. I
All
know.
right, so then it could never be good if they were around. And then it makes total sense if they're devouring the land and all its inhabitants. It makes total sense that they would do that. Because you
Then
know
why
what?
is it full of milk and honey though?
Well, milk and honey because they're growing that stuff, right? It's the people are still there. So, I mean, they can grow crops. And I bet you their grapes were probably huge and massive. If they had their figs, it were probably like supersized. Everything was supersized. So it probably did look like milk and honey. But that doesn't mean if it is truly Nephilim's offsprings, then I can totally get that
Well,
God
they
wants
are.
to wipe them out. Well,
Because like I
then it
just
makes total
showed
sense.
here, the Rephaim are mentioned many times in the Bible. That nobody people don't know about the Rephaim thing. All right. And that's part of my next video I made already. I explained this a bit more. This says right here, Rephaim in Hebrew.
But you know, then they
Um,
were known to be wicked people, right? The
oh
Canaanites.
yeah, yeah, they're totally evil.
So
Yeah,
they had
for
no
sure.
God in them. They were
So there
offspring
was
of,
somehow they're descendants of Nephilim. I know all the theories. I don't really believe any of them. I don't know
I don't even know that they
how they
were,
survived the flood.
I don't know
If
either.
they did survive the flood, you do have to be, you know, are
Well,
they
if this is
are they
actually in
really
the
descendants of the
Bible,
Nephilim? That's a legitimate question. Are they really descendants of the Nephilim? We're trusting these cowards who are rebelling against God, who have no faith, who said they are too strong for God, is what they're really saying. And they want everyone else to rebel. They want everyone else to abandon God and go back to Egypt. So
all right,
these 10
let's,
people are just as evil as the Nephilim. That's my point, which no one's ever heard that perspective
but
before.
let's
Because
say
for
they're
10 years, all
lying
we hear
or,
is Nephilim are bad and people are good.
yeah, yeah. But if they are exaggerating or lying or making some of this up, God always has to clarify. You always have like two testimonies. So
We're
this
gonna
might
see.
come up.
So who's gonna die first? The Nephilim or these 10 people?
What's
Keep
that?
that in mind. Who's gonna die first? Who is God going to kill first? These Nephilim or these 10 people giving the bad report?
Oh, well, obviously the 10 guys, right? 'Cause they're being,
What did God do to these 10 people who said this phrase right here? What did God think about what they said?
well, he's
I'm
probably
I'm just
mad.
throwing out ideas, for people.
Well, let's
Just
see.
alt
Let's see what
new
happens.
ideas. That's what I do.
All right, new ideas.
New ideas that piss people off. That's my specialty.
No, but the my revelation at all was that they were talking about Nephilims living as Canaanites. That's my revelation. If any of that's,
Well, that's what it says. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. There's
So,
all these there's a lot of
so
there's descendants of Anak and there's descendants of the Nephilim. They're called Rephaim throughout the Old Testament, many, many, many times that nobody
but
knows about.
but that's the new thing that's come up. I always thought
Goliath was
the
it.
Canaanites were just
Everyone knows,
people.
like everyone knows the David and Goliath story, right? Goliath was, according to the Masoretic text, 9'9" or something, but
Yeah,
in some other
so he
text he's
was
shorter.
probably
But
leftover genetics somewhere, right? But
yeah, yeah, Goliath was one, and he had brothers and stuff. So
but
there's
that's
lots,
what God is
most
always.
people.
Every
Go
time
ahead.
God destroys something, it has something to do with angelic human thing.
Not
So
every
far,
time. No, no,
so
no,
far up to this point, it's always been that
no.
way.
He
Yeah,
just killed. He killed Aaron's two sons for
we're not
offering
talking
strange
about
fire.
killing. We're talking about destruction, like the earth, the great flood, and the Sodom and Gomorrah, and now a whole group of people that God is going
Adam
to.
and Eve were kicked out of the garden. They were kicked out of the land of milk and honey. Utopian paradise, Garden of Eden.
Yeah,
Adam
but
and Eve were
Eden's
kicked
moved
out
on.
because of rebellion, not
Yeah,
because of
but
genetics.
no, no, no. I'm not.
That's
I'm not
the
saying
serpent
that.
seed people
Hold
are
on.
getting upset now.
Yeah, no, no, no. I get the people sin and they rebel and they do all that, and God brings them back. So we know the whole redemption plan for the people. What I'm saying is that throughout this thing of what we've been reading up to this point, there is supernatural things that are going on and have gone on from the beginning till then now. And every time there is a group of people that is related to that angelic human interaction in a negative way, God takes care of it. He destroys those groups.
Well, I don't know. Have they been destroyed?
Well, we'll see. I think Canaanites, that's the part of the destruction
They
that's
don't
going
all
to
get
happen.
destroyed. King Saul was supposed to destroy a bunch of them, and he didn't. And so God made sure he died. He was kicked out. He was fired.
Yeah.
They didn't. They were, so the Israelites, we're going to see more of that. They were supposed to get rid of all these guys here, right? But they didn't actually. They did not. I think they're still around. It's unclear to me that if they really have been killed off or not, because most passages in the Bible will say, and these guys were wiped out, except a few people here and there. There's always there's a remnant of the Nephilim.
Well, it seems like that remnant keeps surviving instead of just being
I
wiped
think
out
I think the bloodline has survived, and we
somehow.
probably see them on TV, and they're probably in the government and all that kind of
Sure, they're
stuff.
in power, but but
Wouldn't they
they are.
be ruling the world just like the Genesis 6 Nephilim, where they're tyrants, the ruling tyrants?
Well, there's two types of giants. There's men of renown, which they could just look like us and just be, more superhuman, I guess. Or there is giants that are physically tall, big.
We don't have the big tall ones anymore. I mean, there are some tall people here and there. I've met tall
Yeah, but
people, but
what we have is a men of renown.
yeah, so they're yeah, that's the key is they look like us.
Right.
That's what they've done. Although they do have certain rituals and practices that you can identify them, which
Or
is what
they're
I've been
just,
doing.
well, they don't even have to be uh, something other than human. They could just be engaging with
Yeah,
demonic
yeah,
world to get
exactly.
those powers.
Demonically possessed,
Yeah,
possessed.
right.
Anyway,
These groups is a little bit different from their story, so I just want to follow it and see if that actually is, if they were Nephilims or not.
no, this is very important. So yeah, so Numbers 13 is a very important passage, and now of course in our modern day worldview or postmodern worldview, we've kind of lost the whole supernatural worldview, right? So most people will try to explain away the Nephilim, including Genesis 6, and they'll try to say, oh, they're not really human angel hybrids. They're just, they'll try to explain it away, but that's only cognitive dissonance because the biblical worldview is so much different than our modern day worldview, corrupted by scientism and all the narratives and the deceptions and lies that we inherited as children, just
Well,
we're
our
being
our world,
indoctrinated at school and all that stuff. So
yeah.
there's a disconnect between the modern day worldview of scientism and what the Bible says about many different things, and that's why people have trouble believing this. They think, oh, this is some kind of mythology, or they just get totally confused and they end up
Well, the thing is,
getting
in
angry.
today's world, we may not see the weird supernatural stuff, but the result is the technology that we gained since then, that's all supernatural. There's no way humans can do all this stuff with the speed of light that it's going on. That's definitely some sort of cross
It's magic and
intelligence.
witchcraft, sorcery,
Yeah. So I
pharmakia.
think we do have a knowledge of supernatural stuff. It just doesn't look the same.
We
Like,
call it technology.
yeah, technology, that is magic. There's
It
no
is. It
way.
is.
The
I mean, just
amount
you and I talking right now,
of
and there's all this Wi-Fi stuff going on. I mean, it's like
we take it
I've
for
never
granted,
understood it. I
right?
don't even a stereo, a car stereo. Like I never understood that, or a TV. It's like, how does this even work?
Yeah, I mean, like some stuff it's simple and some stuff is so
It's
complicated.
not.
It's like
Even a
the
record, like I
amount
don't
of knowledge.
a vinyl record. It's like, okay, so you play music and then you have this plastic thing and you put a thing on it and then the music comes out exactly the way you played it
Yeah. You know,
25 years ago. I don't understand that.
guess what? They can do that in DNA too now. There's an artist that put the music information in the DNA. So this stuff is crazy if you really look at all the stuff that they're doing and how they're doing it. It's so
Yeah.
insane. And I don't think that's human. I mean, I think we've been de-evolving since Adam and Eve anyway.
Well, that's what magic and witchcraft is. It's getting the supernatural power into the
Yeah,
life of a human being because we're mortal. We're mortal. We're kind of, stupid and weak.
yeah.
We're limited.
Well,
We're very limited. Life is not easy for us humans. So they want this extra, they want to be a superhero,
right,
you
but
know?
we're getting
So,
there, right? So imagine
yeah.
with Adam and
And
Eve, I mean,
there's,
the fact that we're talking and it's in real time all the way across the world is still amazing to me, and all this stuff really happened in the last 30
and
years.
there's all this superhero propaganda. Superheroes are basically Nephilim.
Yeah,
They're the demigods and all that. And then
yeah,
you
the
see little
Avengers.
kids like 3-year-olds and they're wearing like a Spider-Man costume or something. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Well, they don't understand. I mean, it's just for kids, it's just fun and games.
But it's there. It's imprinted in their brain that
Yeah,
superheroes are better than us, and they want to
of
be a
course,
superhero.
that's what they
And
want.
if you if you inject this thing, you'll get upgraded into a superhero kind of thing.
You and I might be alive where there could be a generation where they are getting upgraded
They
genetically.
already are. I mean, the elite are already doing it.
Yeah, but I mean
They're
to the
breeding.
point where you're not going to recognize that other person as human anymore. You're just going to see them so
I already
upgraded.
see that a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean like to the point they are could be superheroes.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
It's a corruption of humanity at a
Yeah.
massive level, but they don't see it as, who wants to corrupt themselves. They all see it as an upgrade.
Yeah. Well, it is because that's
Ultimately,
how
it's
technology got us that way.
yeah, yeah. We're
Anyway, chapter, what are they rebelling?
14.
Yeah.
People rebel. What a surprise. So remember this whole there's like 10 chapters in a row where they're just rebelling. So I would all I'm saying is yes, there's descendants of the Nephilim in the land of Canaan.
Yeah. But
Um,
they're also wanting
but
to
let's not jump
rebel.
to conclusions and say they're all Nephilim. I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. And then
It's
people
got
say,
to
well,
answer
why
that.
were they supposed to kill all of them? It's because they were idolatrous, they were evil, practicing
Yeah, they were
abominations.
evil. They were
They're
killing
evil.
children. Yeah.
In this judgment, they're getting judgment. Why does God kill these Israelites all the time? God is killing Israelites. Are they genetically tainted as well? No, it's not
No, I
genetic
mean,
taint.
but
No.
yeah, but
So
God does take judgment on evil,
punishes sin.
but he also takes judgment on the Nephilim,
Yeah. So
right?
so that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
And people rebel. It's part. So this whole passage is within the context of rebellion as a theme.
yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, let's
Even
see.
their cow. You could say their cowardice is a type of rebellion.
It is.
I'm looking deeper. Deeper.
But we're
Which
all kind of guilty of that cowardice stuff too when we're
yeah,
faced with
that's why
stuff.
they preach this here in the church.
Yeah.
And but they don't want to talk too much about this Nephilim. That freaks them
Well,
out.
that's
But
the
they'll
important part, though.
well, the cowardice
32 and 33 go together,
for us, are
or
we going to be
30,
like Caleb?
31.
Are we going to be like these 10 cowards? That's
I
the
have to
issue, right?
say,
So
even sometimes you just don't recognize that that's the promise of God that's given to you, though. And we become cowardice. We,
yeah, we're going to trust God or not.
this story
Do we have
actually
faith or
is
not?
is kind of parallel to Jesus on the boat with the storm. That was also about trust. If you're going to look to Jesus, you can walk on water. If you failed and you did trust it,
I don't know.
sinking.
Well, I don't really need to walk on water.
No, but that story is the same. Trust God versus the circumstance.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. All right,
circumstance
let's
was
let's
they
see
were
what
looking at
happens.
the storm, right?
Right. I think okay, so I think chapter 14 is going to kind of tell us what it means. Maybe.
All
Hopefully.
right.
We'll see what happens here.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Then all the congregation lifted up their voices. All right. The congregation is talking now and
Hmm.
cried, and the people wept that night. So they're
Oh,
afraid, right?
yeah.
And because I think they all have heard of these Nephilim, right? Or the
Yeah.
descendants of the Nephilim. These were legends of old, right? They know these stories.
Yeah.
And so they're terrified. And all the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron. And the whole congregation said to them, would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness.
Yeah. So they lost faith instantaneously.
Does that mean it would be better for them to have died in Egypt or in the wilderness? Is that what they're saying here?
Yeah. They're saying they would have been better off if they were going to die in Egypt than to die in
Ah,
the wilderness.
then be killed by the descendants of the Nephilim.
Yeah. So
So now all the
still,
congregation,
Egypt is still a better thought to them than
yeah.
what's happening.
And see, they've turned against God. They're thinking, why has God led us to die? God has
Yeah.
just brought us to slaughter.
Yeah.
So they've all lost faith now too.
Yep.
Why is it says it right here? Why is Yahweh bringing us into this land? There's the land to
But
fall by the sword. Well, it's remember Yahweh says this is the promised land, and you guys will. It'll be a great place. for you guys, and I'm
because
going to bring you there.
they believe the men who came back with the bad report.
And they believe what they see with their own eyes and what they
Yeah.
hear. They believe in the mass media deception. This was mass media propaganda. Let's call it propaganda based on some truth.
You
There's
know,
definitely some truth in there.
these two chapters are kind of super important to what's been happening, not only at a nation, like worldwide level with the 2020 stuff, but also it does apply in the personal stuff that we go through all the time because we tend to look at the giants and we don't see that we can overcome that by God. That's where we
Yeah.
always, that's how most people stop their destiny, actually.
We might actually be up against these same people
Yeah.
again, right? So, yeah, so
And
this is pretty
spirit.
relevant to us.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so what happens?
So, our wives and our little ones will become plunder. Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt?
Yeah, they want to go
And
back.
that's where, remember, they had the free fish.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what you
kind
were
of like
talking
they're
about.
being Lot's wife, trying to look back.
The state, Pharaoh, and Pharaoh had, was worshiping other gods. Pharaoh himself was kind of a god or
Right.
thought of himself as a god. So these,
Okay, so
uh,
my story earlier points to this. Now, the connection is they like the free stuff. They like being
yeah,
kept
yeah,
as
the
slaves
state,
better, yeah, than having to go out and do all this stuff to get the land.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is like the left, the Joe Biden,
This is what's gonna happen. The taking care of the people, the
Elon Musk.
yeah, well, whoever, they're going to provide and everybody's gonna be
Yeah.
wealthy and they're gonna like it.
Okay. By the way, I just only one of my speakers was working in my headphones, and I
Yeah,
was probably shouting because I couldn't really hear myself very well, or you. But now both of them work, and
that's
it
good.
sounds so
But you
much
weren't shy.
better. Okay, so it
That
sounds
was
so much better for me now. Anyway,
fun. That's good.
sorry if I was shouting because it sounded like the volume was really low.
No, no,
So,
you're
all
fine.
right. So they said to one another, "Let us appoint a leader and return to Egypt." There you go. Well, they have a leader. His name is Moses.
Yeah. So they
Let
don't
us
even want
appoint a
Moses
leader.
anymore.
They've turned their back on God already. Is that right?
And
All of them.
Moses, because they don't like Moses anymore either.
God chose Moses to be their leader.
Yeah.
Let us appoint a leader and return to Egypt. A lot of this is about leadership as well, right? These themes. So there's rebellion, there's trust, faith, courage, cowardice. Um,
Well, they thought the journey wasn't going to be as long as it has, but God kept the journey longer because of their
well,
rebellion.
it says we're going to read about that right here. Yeah, so it's only been a year really so far, more or less.
Right.
Um, let's return to see they want to return to Egypt. God brought them out of Egypt, and they're saying, "Oh, no, thanks. Why'd you do that? No, bring us back to Egypt."
Yeah, which sucks. And I don't know. I think they're just special because God demonstrated his superpowers in all of the deliverance. Like to the
Yeah,
point where you have to be in awe if you were actually there and witnessing all that, right? The 10
yeah.
plagues, the Red Sea, the water, the meat, whatever they wanted, the manna. I mean, he's been doing all kinds of supernatural stuff. And
But Egypt had the free fish. It's much better.
yeah, so even then, after witnessing God's stuff, to them, Egypt provided better things.
Well, they had magicians. They had all kinds of. I mean, Egypt was probably a pretty amazing place as well. They had all the pyramids. They had the
Yeah.
pyramids. They had the phoenix, the
Oh, I'm sure
Sphinx,
it was amazing, but I just like once you know God, I just don't see how people can do that. Like
human nature.
imagine if the modern day group of people were being led directly by God out of whatever in the wilderness. I just don't see it at this point. Like, yeah, let's go back to the
No,
big.
it's I would say it's human nature, call it original sin, which is not a popular doctrine these days, apparently, post-modern man.
Yeah.
But you know.
All right, so where are they?
Secular humanism, right? We live in a culture of secular humanists that, you know,
Yeah, but
anyway,
they
um,
witness supernatural. We don't get to do that. We have to read
well,
about
I sometimes we do. We do.
that.
Sometimes people experience that. Where
What was
were we? Return to
that?
Egypt. Okay.
Right.
Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces in the presence of all the assembly of the congregation of the sons of Israel, and Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, of those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes, right?
Uh-oh.
So they were greatly distressed. That's a pretty big deal. When they tear your clothes, you know, that's a big deal. And they spoke to all the congregation of the sons of Israel, saying, the land which we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land,
Who
right?
said that? Joshua.
Joshua and Caleb.
Yeah. Okay, so there
These
were
are the two good
two out of
guys.
the 12,
And
right?
by the way, spoiler alert, these are the only two people that came out of Egypt who actually entered the promised land later on.
Well, that's good because they had faith.
Only these two. The rest of them died in the wilderness. So
And
that's
they
my question is, are these Israelites really the chosen people? They all died. God killed them all.
no, by faith they are chosen. It's
Oh, but
always
but
been
how,
through
how come
faith.
everyone how come most of the Christians in the world think the Israelites are the God's chosen people and we have to protect them and we're going to get raptured out
Well,
and then
God does have a parallel storyline with them, but he's always
I don't know about that.
demonstrated by faith.
Really?
Well, no,
Like
he
he
did choose
killed
a
them.
group of people,
God
right?
kills most of them it seems like through
Yeah, but he has a promise. He has a promise to keep with,
No, no, no. That promise was for the Goyim. It actually says the word Goyim and when God is talking to Abraham, I will make you a
but,
nation. I will make all nations. The word is Goyim. So the promise was to all
but to his
nations, not just to
descendants.
these Israelites.
No, it is to the all the nations by faith, but
Yeah, it's for those of faith.
but
Yeah,
it
it's
was
for those
also
of faith.
descendants of Abraham to keep his promise. As
Well, they're
he
not
was
doing
the
a good
star of
job.
the sky, right? Well, no, he's weeding out the bad ones. If they don't want to follow him, they don't have to. It's not by force.
So only two of them,
Yeah.
anyway. So if you're like for you, right? So you think there's over 2 million Israelites left Egypt. Two out of 2 million entered the promised land. Now their descendant, the next generation entered as
Well,
well.
how do
The
you think
children.
the great flood happened? It killed off everybody but the 8 people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
that's what I'm
you
saying.
can
So how
withered
can you
her
say they're the
down and start
chosen people?
over.
That's a lot of that's very small. That's a very narrow gate.
Well,
But they had faith.
he's
That's
in
the thing. They
50
had
days.
faith right here.
It's
They
okay.
had faith. Now there's a lot of New Testament references to these passages we're reading right here. Quite a few. Um, so anyway, this story is used a lot in the New Testament and also in the book of
It's a
Psalms and
good
whatnot.
story. Keep faith, you get the promised
See,
land.
that's why
You
it'd be a
keep
pretty
faith.
good movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Exceedingly good land. See, it's a good land. It's a
yeah.
good land. If Yahweh is pleased with us, then he will bring us into this land. Let me highlight that. See? And give it to us, a land
I feel
which
like
flows with milk and honey. There's faith, there's trust, there's faith, there's obedience right
don't you
there.
think these chapters alone is would make a better movie? Because it seems
Oh,
like
this is part of
telling
it.
you.
This no, but Joshua has his own book.
Yeah, yeah. But I like these chapters. I think it's right on when you're faced with adversity and
And so you got theme, yeah.
circumstances, and
So
you're
with the
always gonna
movie,
have
oh
doubt.
no, I lost my speaker.
Oh no.
I gotta buy new headphones, man. I go through these like once a year.
Uh,
Anyway, Joshua, so you have this theme of this guy, this young guy kind of learning how to become a leader of these disobedient people. He's up against the Nephilim, the descendants of the Nephilim.
yeah,
I mean, he himself grew up in Egypt as well
right.
as a slave. You could start out and I mean, yeah, Moses would be in the movie as well, but he wouldn't be the main character. So you
No,
don't
no, I
need
just like the story
Batman.
of them either having to trust God or not.
Yeah, that's what it's all about here. So anyway, but as for you, only do not rebel against Yahweh. So their fear is rebellion. See,
Yeah.
fear is rebellion. And do not fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has been removed from them. Yahweh is with us. Do not fear them. Look at that. It's in a box even. I did that.
Did you
Yahweh
not?
is with us. Do not fear them.
Yeah.
So that applies to us today because
Yeah, for
we're up
sure.
against some major serious evil
Well, I
like
think,
never
all these
before.
stories are going to be relived in a way to
We're
kind
in it
of
right
weed out
now.
the cowards versus the faithful. Because you'll
Yeah.
have to, I mean, we kind of were put through that test already. Trust Yahweh and don't fear, or fear and do what you shouldn't have done, right?
Yeah. And what does this mean? Their protection, um, Genesis 15:16. So this is kind of interesting here. Genesis 15:16. This is so way back in Genesis. Then in the fourth generation, they will return here, for the iniquity of the Amorite is not yet complete.
Yeah.
That means that they're not, I'm not going to punish them yet for their sins, but I will. So eventually I will punish. And this is probably refers to all the Canaanites, just another way to refer to the Canaanites. So
Yeah.
the iniquity of the Amorite is not yet complete, but I think here it is complete because he says, where was that? Um, their protection has been removed from them.
Yeah.
So God has decided to bring, so God is trying to use the Israelites to bring judgment upon the Canaanites,
Yep.
just like he did the Babylon was judgment on the Israelites later on.
So what if
So
this protection on United States is going to be
yeah,
nothing?
yeah. It basically means, yeah, judgment has come on the
Yeah.
Canaanites, and someday judgment will come upon the whole world, right? That's the second
Yes.
coming, basically.
But
So
it is going to come against the whole world, but certain groups of people that God is leading for certain things. And I think it does say that the judgment comes upon his own people first before the rest of whoever. So what we should be seeing is judgment against within the body of kind of like weeding out the good.
that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what that whole pharmakia thing I think was all about. It was separating
Yeah,
the
it
wheat from the
was the wheat
tares.
and the tares, right?
I mean, it wasn't that hard to figure that thing out, right? And it wasn't about intellect. It was more about your spiritual,
It was a
how
total
deep into the matrix
spiritual.
are you?
Yeah. Well, it
Who do you
was
worship? Who do
trusting
you
God
follow?
or trusting the government. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's
And
the choice. People
yeah,
made their choice. People
right.
made their choice, man. Hey, sorry.
It's exactly the same choice that was given here, where they thought
Yeah.
it's better to die in Egypt than to die in the wilderness. And
Yeah,
they,
they went back to Egypt.
yeah,
So they could go into the shopping mall, so they could go to the Foo Fighters concert, so
yeah.
they could travel, so they could do all kinds of worldly stuff. They went back to Egypt.
And they gave a private entity authority over the whole world. Why? Why would anybody do that? That's essentially saying, go ahead, we'll be
It's
part of your,
supernatural. What's
yeah,
happening is supernatural because you can't get millions of people. You can't have that many people deceived, first of all, about the common cold, and you can't have that many people working together to spread the deception
yeah.
without some supernatural level of activity. The
Well,
whole thing
God
was
is kind of
supernatural.
allowing that to happen, right? He's
Oh
allowing,
yeah, yeah. No, this is part of the separating the wheat and the tares.
yeah.
God uses Satan,
Yeah,
you
so
know.
he picked his kind and God is picking his kind.
Yeah. I mean,
But we're
and
also
actually,
now in the
yeah.
wilderness. darkness, right? So we have to
Yeah.
keep trusting. Because at any point, even though we kind of we've gone through that now, it's been years, and we still have to keep trusting God. Otherwise, we could become the congregation and saying, no,
Well, the next big thing is going to land in the next this decade. This decade is halfway over almost, and
it's too
still another
close.
5 years to go in this decade of
Oh, yeah, I know
humanity.
it's
It'll be
getting
worse.
worse.
I got a very bad feeling, but not bad, but it'll be difficult, let's say,
It'll
but
be,
good.
I
Yahweh is
feel
with
like,
us. Do not fear them. That's the thing right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the part that's really hard when you're seeing this coming. I think any intelligent, rational person could see stuff coming. It's not, in the context of what we know from the Bible, right? It's not too hard to figure that out.
But there's not too many intelligent, rational people in the world anymore.
Yeah, but I think it's also the fear factor that gets people. And
Yeah, right here. That's why this is in a box.
yeah.
This should be like a t-shirt or something. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a good one, right? Look at this verse.
Yeah,
Maybe I should read
I
this
put it
every
on a
single
t-shirt.
day.
Well, yeah, you should start your t-shirt
And
line.
we might even be killed. All right. Some people might be killed. I might be
You
killed.
know what's worse though? The fear, it's not even the killing part. It's getting to the point where, because everything is so connected to technology now, where they can literally just shut you out of every service possible, even
Yeah,
where
I
you
know.
live, like the
Oh
basic
yeah.
necessities of life, they could shut you out of those. So if they were going to kill you, okay, fine, they kill you. But when you have to live through this matrix, where we're like, okay, if they shut off the lights, what do you do then? That's where you got to keep
Yeah.
trusting God.
Yeah. Um, oh, look at this. But all the congregation said to stone them with stones. That's Moses and Aaron. Or no, who is it? Joshua and Caleb. They want to stone Joshua and Caleb. Then the glory of Yahweh appeared in the tent of meeting to all the sons of Israel. Oh, the glory of Yahweh showed up to prevent this from happening. Look at this. The only two guys who had faith, the congregation, the
Yeah,
church,
the church. See, that's
wanted
what
to
I'm
stone
saying.
the only Christians who had faith. This
Yeah,
is like two witnesses. These guys are like two witnesses, aren't they?
they
Right.
are. And guess who's doing it to them? Their own
The
people.
congregation. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. For
So you
sure.
don't think that's relevant in how this is going to
A
play
lot
out?
of a lot of Christians, especially the ones who kind of work at the church and whatnot, they're kind of like the Pharisees
Yeah.
these days.
Well, if they're
Um,
not in it by faith and doing what God commanded them to do, then they're part of this congregation that can rebel at any time. I mean, they kind of do. But I think this is kind of pointing out, maybe prophetically, how this is going to play out.
for
Because
sure, yeah,
within the church, that they're wanting the two people that are following God's commands.
yep. The two people who had faith, basically.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah, they basically have faith. That's it.
Well, they trusted God, right? They said,
And
yeah,
it's not about, oh, they ate a piece of pork or they now we are going to see a Sabbath story. I don't know if it's this week or next week. But anyway, all right, let's keep going because we still have a lot to go.
yeah.
Yahweh said to Moses, how long will this people spurn me? And how long will they not believe in me, despite all the
Despite all the
signs which
signs.
I have done in their midst?
Yeah. That's what I was
See,
saying.
the people these days, they like, how can I believe in God? Give me a sign. Well, these people had signs and they still didn't believe.
Yeah. Actually, that'd be a good one to tell them next time they're asking for signs. Just give them this chapter.
Jesus says something like that too. He's like, you could have all the signs you want, you're still not going to believe, right?
Right.
So I will strike them with, oh, there's my favorite word, pestilence. I will strike them with pestilence.
Yeah. So did
The
I do some
pestilence.
horrible things to have this eye pestilence come on to me?
Maybe I did too. I had the same thing
But
for
what?
weeks.
So I
months.
did something
This is a
wrong?
pestilence.
Oh
It's
no.
just fallout from the overall pestilence going on in the world right now, probably.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now I lost my speakers giving me pestilence. I have to buy new speakers or
Yeah.
headphones. Dispossess them, and I will make you into a nation greater and mightier than they. Um, so basically, Yahweh here is saying, I'm going to kill all these Israelites, and I will start again with you,
Yeah,
with Moses. Going to kill them all.
that's fine.
Um,
Well, he got tired of them. They got tired of him, God too. So
but
it's
yeah,
a breakup story, right?
they did not believe in him. So that's faith, right? Believing, trusting, obeying, following. But Moses said to Yahweh, then the Egyptians will hear of it, for by your power you brought up this people from their midst. And they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land. They have heard that you, O Yahweh, are in the midst of this people. For you, O Yahweh, are seen eye to eye, while your cloud stands over them. And you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day, and in a pillar of fire by night. Now, if you put this people to death as one man, like if you kill all of them, then the nations who have heard of your fame will say, because Yahweh was not able to bring this people into the land which he swore to them, therefore he slaughtered them in the wilderness.
Nice.
Now it is, it's like, yeah, God chooses us not really because we're so great, but a lot of it's for his, he made this promise to Abraham and he has to fulfill it. He's going to fulfill it. He has to keep his promises despite
Yeah, he
us.
doesn't want to bring people that don't want what he wants for them.
And he doesn't want to kill all these people, but
Yeah, but they were getting
you
to the
know,
point where they were getting all corrupted, and they were so easily corrupted that they wanted their own leader to bring them
yeah.
back, right? So
God
why
wants
did
to
God do all of
establish
that?
God wants to establish his kingdom on earth to dwell in our midst, to live with us. God wants to live with us on earth, but these people
Yeah,
don't
but
want it.
he also showed himself to these people and they rejected him, right? That's the
Yeah,
key thing. So you
they're
don't do
whoring
all
after
that
other
effort.
gods.
Yeah, because
And also,
they were so the only time God intervened when they were in Egypt after 400 years because they were getting so oppressed, right? So that he finally heard his cries and said, all right, I'll get you out of there. So somehow they've forgotten all about that, right? How bad it was that they were crying out to God after 400 years. So he let them be in the state that they wanted. And only after they started crying out to him to, save us, did he go in there and do stuff. And now they don't even want that.
yeah, and also like in a military context, they're giving God as their commander. They're kind of disobeying orders too. And if a soldier disobeys orders, they
Yeah.
basically they're kicked out or they go to jail or something, court martial, right? So they're punished as well. So it's kind of similar. All right,
Well,
let's
it
keep
would
going.
corrupt it would be more corrupted than the people that were already there corrupted if they were just allowed to go in. So I think it makes sense that he just was done with them because he's giving the promised land to the people that believed its promise. You don't replace Canaanites with more wicked people, right?
And the Israelites essentially became Canaanites later on.
Yeah.
Again, spoiler alert.
All
So
right.
now I pray, let the power of the Lord be great, just as you have declared. This is Yahweh. This is Moses talking to God. Yahweh is slow to anger. Now, this is a kind of almost a quote from before in Exodus. Yahweh is slow to anger and abundant in his loving kindness, or hesed in Hebrew, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but he will by no means clear the guilty.
Yeah.
So we have mercy, grace, mercy, forgiveness, but also justice or judgment, right?
Yeah.
This is
Oh,
good.
that's the guilty that we have to define what makes a person guilty when,
They don't repent.
yeah, the
God always gives God. See, God's always very clear in what He wants people to do, And he also forgives them if they make a mistake.
Right.
But if they don't repent, then
That's
they're
what makes
judged
you
for
guilty.
judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations. Now, notice it says the iniquity. It's not the curse or it's not the judgment of God on and the children. It's the sin, the iniquity of the fathers
Yeah,
is
but
passed on. The iniquity is passed on, not the judgment.
okay, but isn't every person to their own sin?
That's what I'm saying. It's not every person is judged for their own sins, but the
Oh, but
sin
you mean the
itself can affect your
consequences?
children. The consequences of your
Yeah, it's the
sin
consequences
are
that get passed on.
continue.
Yeah.
I think that's what this is saying. See, a lot of people think this is saying judgment of the fathers is passed on. No, and
Because,
it doesn't say judgment is a sin. The sin of the fathers
but how
is
does it
passed
go
on.
beyond the first round of children? What kind of
Well, like,
sin that they could have
my
done?
father was an alcoholic. I was an alcoholic.
But you have a choice to be an alcoholic.
No, you
That's
don't
not
choose it.
genetically, right?
It
It's
just
still a
happens. You
choice.
don't, I was an instant alcoholic from the age of 11, first time
Yeah.
I took a drink. It's like if you're allergic to seafood, did you choose that?
No, because that's through genetic and that's not even a sin. But like if you're saying inequity, something that the fathers did, right? I don't know what they could have done. So how would that go beyond their children? Because the children can imitate and learn.
Yeah, if you're mean and don't have if you're not treating people kindly and all that stuff, the sin of the fathers, if you're like an evil person, then your children will be affected by that. And your and see the all these people here, basically children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, they would often be alive at the same time.
Yeah. All
So
right. So we could just say that
I mean, this is a tough one
behavioral patterns that get set down.
because you do see like was it Cush and Nimrod and those guys. There was some kind of Ham, right? When Ham disrespected Noah after Noah got drunk and passed out naked, and Ham should have covered him up. That's what he's you're supposed to cover up somebody's nakedness, but he did not. So he disrespected Noah. So Ham was punished. Ham's children were punished.
But the children didn't do that though. So that's my point. When
Yeah.
God is saying that each sin is your own, that you gotta
Well,
be
I mean, right here it just says, yeah, whatever.
right. But
Um,
this is saying, in a way, it is kind of implying that father sins are passed down like a curse type thing.
well, the sins are, yeah, people do get a little carried away with generational curses because that's the thing that
Yeah,
the
but this is
charismatics
kind of
do.
implying that. Otherwise, your
No, no, no.
is judged by the person. Like the story you just said, Ham's children, they didn't do what he did, but if they were passed down to his children,
Well, again, it could have been just Ham was generally kind of a an evil person himself, so his children were evil as well, or wicked, or rebellious, or whatever you want to call it.
all
And
right,
then
well,
they're judged for their own sins, but they kind of learned it from their fathers.
that could be,
They will be affected by the sins of the father, who's unrepentant. Um,
yeah, I mean,
I
in
mean,
that
you can
sense,
see it.
everybody is, right?
I mean,
Whatever.
look at you. You can see children who grew up in like you know, a good house, right? A house with two parents who were like not on drugs or something like that. They're like totally different than someone like me. You grow up in a one parent home where everyone's a alcoholic. You're going to be different. You know what I mean? It's going to
Yeah, but
affect your life.
turned out all right. So,
No,
I
I
mean,
didn't.
nobody would know unless you
Finally,
told them.
Baron. Well, yeah, it's like 30 years later.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's because it's
you should
God's
have seen me
work.
back then. You should have seen me back in the day. You wouldn't like me very
Rebellious
much.
one. Yeah. Well, God found you, so I guess he
Yeah.
stopped the curse then, right? Down to your
Well, I don't know if I'd call it a curse, but I mean, it was my own sin. So I think we have, so we have personal responsibility, but we also kind of learn things from our parents. Parents in the Bible, they do say you're supposed to teach your children,
righteousness. Yeah,
the way is, yeah, yeah.
right.
But sometimes that just doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So,
mean, it didn't happen in my
so
household.
yeah, so who knows? There's different
But
ways to
because
look at
the only
this.
ones who could teach you righteousness is the one that are in God's grace, right? That know about God. Otherwise, how are you going to
Yeah.
learn, honestly? That's without God giving you that wisdom. Um, nobody's going to know unless
Yeah.
your parents are godly, right?
All right, let's keep going here. Pardon, I pray, the iniquity of this people according to the greatness of your loving kindness. Hesed. See, they don't really know how to translate that word, Hesed. You see all kinds of weird words. Just as you also have forgiven this people from Egypt until now. So Moses is like he's acting more like a priest right now. He's the mediator between,
Yeah,
the God who's now about to give wrath or judgment on people. Moses he's doing kind of what Jesus does, right? He's like,
yeah.
yeah, these people are,
Well,
you
he's
know,
being a good father to this congregation, right?
even though the congregation just wanted to
Oh,
overthrow Moses.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, but
Like
it's hard.
If I were Moses, I'd be like, yeah, wipe them all out. Let's start again. These people are useless.
Nobody like me, I'm like, yeah. But no, he's a humble guy, right? That's why God chose him. So,
Evil complainers. Now, these are not in the original Bible. These are just every Bible has different headings.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of a funny one there.
Which I hate those. I hate complainers.
Uh,
I hate them more.
Evil complainers.
Yeah,
So Yahweh said, I have pardoned them according to your word. All right. So it's kind of like the priest intervened and calmed down the wrath of God a little bit. So it's in a way, I think Moses kind of repented for the people in a way,
yeah, he
something
did.
like that.
Yeah.
Or, it's a kind of atonement or something. Moses, you know, and that you
Well,
see
that
that
came
happen. There's
up
quite a few of
many
these kind of things.
times in the past where Moses pled
Yeah.
for the people and then God forgave them, right? So he's kind of like carrying out the same theme, thinking that this might happen this time too, right?
So we kind of need this intermediary,
Yeah.
which now is Jesus. It's not the priest, not the Catholic priest. Catholic priests can't claim to be doing this now, but they're not really doing it.
Yeah, right.
So Yahweh said, I have pardoned them according to your word, but indeed, as I live, all the earth will be filled with the glory of Yahweh. Well, there you go. That's the future, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, because the
Hasn't quite
promise is
happened
made
yet,
to all the
fully.
believers that we're going to have a new heaven and a new earth, right? So we're in the same boat
Yeah, I
as
think
these
that's what they're
guys.
talking about.
So either we believe that promise, what we're
Yeah,
waiting for, and we might have to die, well, more
it's
likely
part
we
of the
will
same
die
plan.
to get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surely all the men who have seen my glory and my signs, which I have done in Egypt and in the wilderness, yet have put me to the test, right? Put me to the test these 10 times and have not listened to my voice, shall by no means see the land, which I swore to their fathers, nor shall any of those who spurn me see it. So they're not going to enter the promised land.
Yeah. That's fine.
Anyone who So that's his judgment on the people, on all the people. But my servant Caleb, because he has had a different
Different.
spirit and has followed me fully, I
Yeah.
will bring into the land again, which he entered, and his seed shall take possession of it.
So this is kind
And
of
he's
like the
from Judah.
third time. So you know how all the descendants were from Adam and Eve, and then they were all from Noah's, and now they're all going to be from Caleb in this
No,
land.
no, no, not all of them. No, not all, because there's also
Well, there's
no, that's not
Joshua.
true. But you made a good point that God kind of starts over again, right? Like there's
Yeah,
Adam and he was kicked out. Noah was kind of a new Adam.
yeah.
And these Israelites as a whole are kind of like a new Adam,
Which
or
they
maybe
were all
Moses
the
is, or somebody,
Israelites. Yeah, they were all the Israelites.
David.
Yeah, and now
But
he's starting
Jesus
again.
is the new Adam. Jesus is the
Right.
true new Adam.
Yeah, but
But
everybody else
so
is
so what
after
this
him.
means, I think, see, Caleb is from the tribe of Judah, so I think he's talking about King David here. Take possession might be referring to King David, who is also from the tribe of Judah.
Well, the line still has to continue to get to Jesus, right? So, but it's not
Well,
coming
that's
from
later
all
on,
the
yeah.
other group. It's only coming from those two guys.
No. They're not the only two people who enter.
Who
They're the
else?
only two people who came out of Egypt. There's other, they're there for 40 years, so their children also enter. And there's about the same
Yeah,
number
but
of people.
isn't it just
The
their
next
children?
generation,
Yeah. Oh,
no.
all right.
It's still the 12 tribes still exist.
They
There's
do?
people from the 12 tribes all go into the land. Yeah, but from the next generation.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
Saying that
it
he's going to
explains it
destroy
here.
the
It
current
explains it.
generation.
Exactly. Yeah. The adults.
All right.
And there's children here that are not part of this rebellion group as well.
Right.
Um, so all right, it tells us what happens. Now the Amalekites, Amalek, the Amalekites and the Canaanites live in the valleys. Turn tomorrow and set out to the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. So
Hmm.
that's who's talking now. This is God talking, right? Um, yeah, this is God talking, and He's telling them what to do. This is important because they're not going to do this.
Yeah.
Um, he's telling them to avoid conflict right here, right? These guys are there in the valley, so don't go there. Go
Right.
this other way. Avoid these guys. Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation? Whoa,
Hmm.
who are grumbling against me. I have heard the complaints of the sons of Israel, which they are making against me. They're an evil congregation, like an evil church.
Yeah. Which we know exists. Yeah.
That's a good one right there, because everyone, people in church, they all think they're good. Oh, I go to
Yeah.
church, I'm
Well, they're
good. Our church
fooling
is good.
people, right? I think there's deception going on right now where
Oh,
the
major.
idea of church is like taken over hostage because that's where God resides to them. And then they're perverting it, changing it, and thinking that God is just going to comply with whatever they want to do. So,
They're offering strange fire.
yeah, well, they're trying to distract believer and confuse them, and then some of them do get confused.
All right. Say to them, as I live, declares Yahweh, just as you have spoken in my hearing, so I will surely do to you. Your corpses your corpses will fall in this wilderness, even all your numbered men. Remember, the numbered men are the
I
soldiers
mean, yeah,
over the age of 20.
yeah.
We started out the book of Numbers going through this, long, detailed process of numbering all these
It
men
makes
to
no
create these
sense.
armies, and now they're all going to die.
Yeah, right. So they didn't even have to do that. You could have just let them
Even
die.
all your numbered men, and these are basically soldiers,
Yeah,
according to your complete number from 20 years old and upward, who have grumbled against me.
yeah.
Surely you shall not come into the land in which I swore to make you dwell, except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh,
Jepaniah.
and Joshua, the son of Nun.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, but he's saving
But,
the little
but,
ones.
but your little ones, however, who you said would become plunder, I will bring them in,
All
so
right.
they will know the land which you have rejected. So the children, probably,
Yeah,
I guess people under the age of 20, maybe, and then also anyone born during this 40 years
yeah.
will enter the land.
So
So
it's
there you
just
do
the
have
first.
justice and mercy again, right?
Yeah. Well, they didn't do anything wrong, so why punish them, right?
Yeah. Which is kind of, again, remember that verse we just were kind of asking about iniquity of the fathers. passed on, but it's really not passed on here, is it? Because the children want the little ones are able to enter the land. He didn't punish the little ones for their father's sins right here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, God
Although they did,
shows who he punishes, though. So that's why I'm thinking it isn't just children learning of their father's ways. It's actually God could be taking judgment on 3 to 4 generations of the fathers. But in this case, he chose not to do that.
well, they do have to wait 40 years to go in. They could have gone into the land like that week. You know what I mean? The next day after this story,
Yeah,
the spies return. They could have said, "All right, tomorrow, let's go into the land." But now
right.
it's like, "Oh no, we're going to wait 40 years, and you guys are all going to die here, and we're
Mhm.
not going to go into the land until 40 years later." It's like, man, and they can't go back to Egypt either. You
Right.
know, yeah. So your little ones, however, who you said would become plunder, I will bring them in, so they will know the land which you have rejected. They rejected the land. See, they rejected it
Yeah.
because of, yeah, partly because of fear and also because of rebellion. I think that's part of it. At
Well,
least
they're
it's part of
rebelling
it.
because of the fear and the unknown.
Yeah, they don't have faith. Like
Yeah.
they had the Caleb had a different spirit. It just said somewhere, right? A
Yeah, and he
different spirit.
followed God's commands. That's what he
He
did.
followed me fully. Now
Yeah.
maybe he had the Holy Spirit on him or something. You know what I mean? I don't
I
know.
think he must, right? How is he going to have a different spirit then?
Yeah, that's kind of
Unless,
interesting.
yeah.
All right. But as for you, your corpses will fall in this wilderness. So they're basically going to die of old age. Instead of God just kind of killing them right away,
Yeah.
he's just going to let them die of old age, it sounds like.
Well, that's what's happening to all the people. So the judgment isn't like, oh, they get to die early or whatever. It's really, they're
Mhm.
given 120 years to decide and come to God. And if they don't, they're going to live out their natural life and then everyone else enters the promised land. It's the same parallel story, you know. So
Yep.
this is just kind of demonstrating that, I think.
And your sons shall be shepherds for 40 years in the wilderness, and they will suffer for your unfaithfulness. Well, so okay, so now the sons will suffer for their. See, now the son, it's basically it does say right here, the sons will suffer because of their father's unfaithfulness until
No,
your corpses come to an end in the wilderness. And that's what it says, isn't it?
no, your sons shall be shepherds and they will suffer. Okay, yeah, yeah.
They is your sons.
Yeah, it's for the father's unfaithfulness. So they do suffer. So the inequity is being passed.
Oh, literally fornications. Because fornications, they're cheating on God, right? The covenant. See, they're breaking the terms of the covenant. They just entered into covenant with God, right? The Mount
Right,
Sinai and all that stuff. So they call it fornication because it's like cheating on your wife or something, you know.
right.
You're in covenant with God and they break the covenant. That's a type of fornication.
So how will the
So
sons going to suffer then? Because it says
just
until your corpse.
by waiting 40 years
Oh, I see. Yeah. All
for no
right.
reason, you know, they don't there's no logistical reason to wait that long.
Yeah.
It's a punishment. Well, see, but it's part of, see, it's really these guys are being punished, but their
They're gonna
punishment
die,
means
right?
everyone else has to be, everyone in the class has to be punished because these guys.
Yeah.
So, according to the number of days which you spied out the land, 40 days, for every day you shall bear your guilt a year, even 40 years, and you will know my opposition.
Oh, nice.
See, that's why it's 40 years because they
Yeah.
went for 40 days.
So he's given them a year punishment and death. That's the judgment.
Yeah.
So,
I guess they learned their lesson.
well, so like they get to be in jail, their wilderness jail for 40 years and then they die.
Yeah. What a drag. I, Yahweh, have spoken. Surely this I will do to all this evil congregation. But it is mercy though as well. He could have just wiped them out completely.
Yeah,
He's calling them an evil congregation, but yet
yeah,
he spared their lives,
yeah. He gave him 40 years, right?
who are gathered together against me. See,
Yeah.
this is Yahweh speaking. They're against him. And they're for Pharaoh. They want to be Egyptians again. I
Yep.
would have sent them back to Egypt, maybe. I don't know. I would see. I'm not, I'm not as nice as God is. I would have sent them back. Okay, go
But
back
you
to
know
Egypt. Good
what's,
luck with that.
but it went from 400 years, then 40 years of judgment. You see, it kind of parallels there a little bit.
Yeah. In this wilderness they shall come to an end, and there they will die.
Mhm.
As for the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land, who returned and made all the congregation grumble against him by bringing out a bad report concerning the land, even those men who brought out the very bad report of the land died by a plague before Yahweh. A plague.
So you know why he didn't send them back to Egypt?
Why?
Because they can't go back and reproduce and make more children. So what's happening is that they're getting judged for what they did living out.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
still saving the children to continue on.
Yeah, the children have to go into the land. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have more Israelites stuck in Egypt again.
Yep. Yeah, God's plan will happen no matter what the people do, right? God's gonna make his plan happen, his promises, even
Right.
though and that's kind of why Jesus had to die on the cross to give us to give us a new heart, a new spirit. That's
Yeah.
the only way because we're rebellious. I mean, that's the thing. All right, let's just finish off this chapter or well, this passage here. But Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh remained alive out of those men who went to spy out the land. So basically, 10 people were killed by this plague, which it basically means some kind of death. They died right away. It sounds like
Yeah.
before they were killed instantly.
Yeah, don't give your
Um,
boss a bad report.
yeah, yeah. Bad news. Nobody likes bad news.
Yeah.
But wow. And is okay.
Chapter
Let's
15.
finish this chapter at least.
Yeah.
Israel struck down, struck down. Then Moses spoke these words to all the sons of Israel, and the people mourned greatly. In the morning, however, they rose up early and went up to the ridge of the hill country, saying, "Here we are. We will go up to the place which Yahweh has promised, because we have indeed sinned." So now they're like, okay, you know, okay, they're kind of admitting they've sinned, but Moses said, but then do you trespass against the command of Yahweh when it will not succeed? Because remember, they didn't tell him to go up. God told them where to go, but
Yeah.
they're saying, hey, we're going to go up here. We're going to go to this hill country. But God told them to not go
Oh,
there.
not go there. So they're still
They're going against
rebelling.
the command. So they think they're kind of doing something good, but they're really still trespassing. Do not go up, for Yahweh is not among you, so that you are not defeated before your enemies. So in chapter 13, they're kind of told to go somewhere and they refuse to because they're so afraid. But now they have this kind of courage that
Yeah.
we can do this
Yeah.
on our own. We're going to show Yahweh that we're not afraid and go up ourselves without him. They call this, what do they call this? The sin of omission and the sin of commission,
Well,
something like that.
they're going by their own power instead of God.
Yeah, exactly. For the Amalekites, and the Canaanites will be there in front of you, and you will fall by the sword, inasmuch as you have turned back from following Yahweh, and Yahweh will not be with you. See, the only way they can win these battles is if Yahweh is with them.
Yeah.
But they went up heedlessly to the ridge of the hill country. Neither the ark of the covenant of Yahweh nor Moses moved from the camp. Then the Amalekites and the Canaanites who lived in that hill country came down and struck them and beat them down as far as Hormah.
So God just let them die that way. So he didn't even actually kill them, they just killed themselves. Because they were so prideful, thinking they could do it now.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that kind of ends that tragic story.
Uh,
But,
Still want to do
well,
15?
it's up to you. Let's see. This one doesn't have a lot of, it's a bit long. It doesn't have a lot of, why is this so long? That's pretty long. This is kind of like, there's not a lot of action and drama. We could go through it quickly if you want to,
Yeah, let's do
because
it.
it's better to cover three chapters because a lot of these chapters kind of go in groups of three anyway, narratively.
Yeah, and I want to finish what happened to them. So at least let's
Let's
finish.
just go.
All right.
Well, they kind of changed the topic a bit. So basically, what you have is two chapters of rebellion and kind of judgment and mercy and all that, and then you have kind of like another law almost or something, and that's kind of a pattern you see a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll go through this one quickly.
All right.
Um, it's better to start with 16 next time anyway.
All right.
Now Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, When you enter the land of your places of habitation, which I am going to give you, then make an offering by fire to Yahweh, a burnt offering or a sacrifice to fulfill a special vow, or as a free will offering, or in your appointed times to make a soothing aroma to Yahweh from the herd or for the flock. So now it's kind of almost like the book of Leviticus again,
Yeah.
make these offerings. Again, when you enter the land 40 years from now, and not even the adults, the children. So it is
Yeah.
kind of strange. He's taught, so he's still basically saying, yeah, we're going to keep the promise, but 40 years from now.
Well, they kind of renewed the covenant, maybe.
Yeah, well, this meal is kind of like a covenant meal almost,
Yeah.
or a fellowship meal, or
Yeah.
they call it like a peace offering, but it's really it's a shalom offering. So
Yeah.
it's like a covenant meal kind of thing. And the one who brings his offering near shall bring near to Yahweh a grain offering of 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil, and you shall prepare wine for the drink offering, 1/4 of a hin with the burnt offering or for the sacrifice for each lamb. Or for a ram, you shall prepare a grain offering, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/3 of a hin of oil. And for the drink offering, you shall bring near 1/3 of a hin of wine as a soothing aroma to Yahweh. And when you prepare a bull from the herd as a burnt offering or a sacrifice to fulfill a special vow or for peace offerings to Yahweh, then you shall bring near with the bull from the herd a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/2 a hin of oil. And you shall bring near as the drink offering 1/2 a hin of wine as an offering by fire, as a soothing aroma to Yahweh. Thus it shall be done for each ox, for each ram, for each of the male lambs or of the goats, according to the number that you prepare. So you shall do for everyone according to their number. All who are native shall do these things in this manner, and bringing near an offering by fire as a soothing aroma to Yahweh. What's kind of funny is it's very detailed, but they won't actually do this for 40 years. So it is kind of strange. Maybe they're just supposed to write it down for the next generation or something. I don't know.
Well, they're also doing this while they're out there. All these peace offerings, it's already been established what all the
Yeah,
offerings.
but he starts out by saying, when you enter the land.
Yeah, but I think they're also doing this on a regular practice anyway.
It's basically in the book of Leviticus, this kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right? Pretty similar. All right. All right. Statute for the sojourner. And if a sojourner sojourns with you, or one who may be among you throughout your generations, I think it kind of means foreigner, right?
Yeah.
Alien. When
Yeah.
he offers an offering by fire as a soothing aroma to Yahweh, just as you do, so he shall do. As for the assembly, there shall be one statute for you and for the sojourner who sojourns with you, a perpetual statute throughout your generations, as you are, so shall the sojourner be before Yahweh.
So they don't have different. It says the next one, there shall be one law and one judgment for you and for the sojourner or sojourns with you. So they're under the same law, the foreigners.
Yeah, yeah, I think
So you
that's the
know
point.
what's, uh, I think this has been established in multiple places where a foreigner that comes to reside with them, they have to be the same as those people. They can't just do their own thing. Guess
Yeah.
what? That's not what's really happens. How foreigners enter wherever they go. They want to continue with their own laws and own practices without actually,
Ah, you mean in the real world, in
yeah,
the world, in society? Yeah,
right.
yeah, you see that. Yeah, for sure.
But the real, I mean, the biblical says they have to submit to the people laws and statutes. Whatever
Yeah,
the
that's what it
natives
says.
do, the foreigners have to do.
Yeah. I mean, I live in a foreign country. I basically have to do that.
Yeah.
But I still,
Well,
you know, I still am very much an American. It's not easy to do that, actually. It's
no,
not
I
easy
know. That's
to
why they want
adjust to another culture when
to,
you're a red-blooded American
right. But technically, if you were
individualist.
to follow the biblical practices, well, as believers, you follow God first, right? Because they were trained to know the ways of God. Today, nobody knows that, so you can't really follow them in that sense. But if you are going to live in a foreign country, you do have to abide by their natural ways. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And this perpetual state again is, I think it's, this is used quite a few times in the Mosaic covenant, but it really is perpetual as long as the Mosaic covenant is in force,
yeah,
right? And then when that covenant ends, so it's not a perpetual forever, uh, actually,
yeah. We kind of
in
talked about that
reality.
before. It
But
ends
just
when
in
the
case
new
someone's
covenant.
watching this, yeah,
Yeah. So
because
the new
this is the
covenant,
main hook that the Hebrew roots uses. Actually, this is the main
right? But
concept
they
they
kind of
use to hook
missed the
people
new
in.
covenant, right? So
Yeah, because
that
this
story will
the
go
Mosaic
with,
covenant is forever, and
yeah,
in their
but
mind,
you know
hmm,
that when God gives a promise, if we're not keeping by faith the promise that He gives us, then they kind of don't enter that promised land. So if you're stuck on the perpetual statute and you don't see the new covenant with Christ, you're not going to enter into the promised land. That's what all this story is all about, right? So,
these guys had all these statutes and stuff, and it didn't do
yeah,
them any good,
right.
as we just read. They had the law. They were at Mount Sinai when the
Mhm.
Mosaic covenant was given. They were the ultimate Hebrew roots people ever, and
Yep,
they
but
all
they
died
didn't
in the
believe.
wilderness.
All because they didn't believe God. That's the thing.
So yeah, let's go under the Mosaic covenant again, and we can be just like these people. They're such great examples.
Yeah. Well, good luck to them.
Anyway,
Yeah.
there should be one law and one judgment for you and for the sojourner who sojourns with you. Yeah, it's like fair, right? It's fair. Justice, again,
Yeah.
God of justice. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, it's funny how God doesn't speak to the people directly most of the time, right? It's always through Moses
Yeah, he needs
because
an
they just can't
intermediary.
handle it.
Right.
When you enter the land where I'm going to bring you, then it shall be, well, I guess only the children, right? Then it shall be that when you eat of the food of the land, you shall raise up a contribution offering to Yahweh. Of the first of your dough, you shall raise up a cake as a contribution offering, as the contribution offering of the threshing floor.
Which
And
is wheat or rye,
so you shall
grain,
raise it
whatever.
up. Yeah. Yeah. And the Canaanites had all kinds of ritual because that represents fertility and all that stuff. And they say like theater originally started on the threshing floor would also be where they put theatrical plays in the pagan societies were a fertility ritual. The theater was originally a fertility ritual,
Well,
and that's why they had the transvestite actors.
yeah, but in the
Anyway,
secular world, they have their own meanings, but in biblical meaning for the threshing floor, it means something different. It actually goes with God promises as provisions and, all the good stuff. Because the book of Ruth talks about a lot of that
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're right. The Book of Ruth.
threshing floor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it was an important part of society back then because that's where their food was, That's
Food, yeah,
they,
and then prosperity and like the
yeah.
salvation in a way. So
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so it's all yeah, so God's people had kind of their own way of doing this, and
yeah,
then the pagans had a different
yeah,
outlook
pagans
on this.
misuse it in a completely different way, but God is uh so the book of Ruth actually points out a lot of this stuff because Boaz, he had to leave tenth of his land for gleaning, and that's how she went onto his land to glean for the grains, and that's how they met. But the threshing floor is where the proposal happened for Ruth and Boaz to.
Mm,
So it has a lot of like, it actually kind of where a person who's faithful to God, they're kind of tied, at least back then, to the grains and the land that they controlled and the prosperity of the threshing floor, because that's where they would have gotten
mm.
all the grain.
Kind of like the Garden of Eden, it
Yeah.
was an abundant place with
It was, yeah,
the
abundance,
land
that's
of
the
milk
word.
and honey,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, so it means
Yeah.
abundance in a way.
Yeah, because God created the land first and then he created people
Right. But
for
the
us to
only
live
way they
in.
could have that abundance if they honored God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all God's trying to do is give these people a really good piece of land, really, and
Right.
establish a kingdom, and he wants to dwell with them, and the people are resisting. They're rebelling against it for some reason,
I know. It's kind of
which is the
sucky.
same as us today, I guess.
Yeah. We try though.
From the first of your dough, you shall give to Yahweh a contribution offering throughout your generations. But when you unintentionally fail and do not observe all these commandments, which Yahweh has spoken to Moses, even all that Yahweh has commanded you by the hand of Moses, from the day when Yahweh commanded and onward throughout your generations, then it will be, if it is done unintentionally, hidden from the sight of the congregation, that all the congregation shall offer one bull from the herd for a burnt offering as a soothing aroma to Yahweh, with its grain offering and its drink offering according to the legal judgment, and one male goat for a sin offering.
Yeah, so this
This
was
was
all
this,
established in Leviticus by detail,
yeah,
all the
okay,
unintentional sins and intentional.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I thought, yeah. Um, okay, so there's unintentional sins. No, it's not supposed to be blue, by the way. But then the priest shall make atonement. Let me just get rid of that real quick. Then the priest shall make atonement for all the congregation of the sons of Israel, and they will be pardoned.
Yeah.
For it was an error,
Yeah.
and they have brought their offering, an offering by fire to Yahweh, and their sin offering before Yahweh for their error. So all the congregation of the sons of Israel will be pardoned with the sojourner who sojourns among them, for it happened to all the people through error.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this okay? Let me just see. Okay. Um, Also, if one person sins unintentionally, then he shall bring near a 1 year old female goat for a sin offering. Um, and the priest shall make atonement before Yahweh for the person who goes astray when he sins unintentionally, making atonement for him that he may be pardoned. You shall have one law for him who does anything unintentionally, for him who is native among the sons of Israel, and for the sojourner who sojourns among them. Kind of a strange word. Nobody uses this word anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a better word. But the
Corner.
person who does anything with a high hand, whether he is native or a sojourner, a foreigner, alien,
Yeah.
that one is blaspheming Yahweh. Um, and
Well,
that person
you're
shall be
you're a
cut off.
sojourner. You're a sojourner where you live.
Maybe I'll just call myself a sojourner from now on.
You're
Um,
not the natives, so you're definitely on their land.
why is that? Hold on, it's supposed to be.
And nobody really
Oh
living in
wait.
the US is, we're all sojourners too, even after three, four, 5 generations.
I just lost my place. All right. End of 14, 15, end of 15. Sorry about that. Trying to look at the KJV. I'm just curious as to what okay, so that's kind of the tricky thing though, is it's I don't know that it's necessarily defined specifically, is it? What is the difference? What is an example
Unintentional?
or unintentional sin versus sin with a high hand? High hand is a rebellious and intentional, like you're sinning on purpose, basically, right?
Yeah, so intentional sins is where the person knows that they're doing something wrong, despite given the law or whatever. Like, you know it's wrong to steal, but you steal anyway, right? So that's an intentional sin. And you don't repent, you still keep stealing. And those people do get judged. But the unintentional sin is that stuff that you might not even know, aware of that you're doing something wrong, but you are in some way. I think Leviticus defined a bunch of that.
Yeah. So it's ignorance
Yeah, ignorant sins, but you're
in the
still
King
sinning.
KJV, sin through ignorance. Okay, that makes sense. Sin through ignorance, and then they call it a stranger sometimes. The stranger is the sojourner.
Yeah. Well,
Stranger.
back then, they weren't getting like visas to reside there, right? They were just coming and going. So any like nomadic or anybody that was just coming into their territory to live with them, all this is saying is that they had to abide by the same rules.
Well, the difference here is that the presence of Yahweh was with them, so they had to maintain this purity and this cleansing,
Yeah,
for sinful people to exist with God, they had to do all this atonement and all this stuff.
right. But the people would have known that. So the foreigner isn't going to come and live with them and be
Yeah.
totally caught off guard, right? Because he or she would have had to accept that this is whatever it was and that they
So
were entering into
yeah,
territory.
and that's why I think we're going to see an example. We actually will see an example right in the next passage of sinning with a high hand, like they're blaspheming Yahweh, right?
Yeah,
When they
so
do
that's
that, and then they
intentional.
despise the word of Yahweh
Those are intentional, yeah. And
because
we,
he has
we know
despised.
examples of that today for sure.
Well, we're gonna see one here because he has despised the word of Yahweh and has broken his commandment. That person shall be completely cut off. His guilt will be on him. And kind of, this person who does this has broken the terms of the covenant intentionally. So he's kind of left it anyway, right? He's left the covenant.
Yeah,
Um,
he'd already broken it because why would you have malice towards God when,
yeah,
especially if you want to go hang out with him?
yeah. So it's not just ignorance or making a mistake, sinning unintentionally. It's someone who's blaspheming God and despising the word of God. Someone who hears the instructions and says, "No, I'm not going to do that."
Yeah, and
Which
there
could,
are
yeah,
some that actually go against Christians who do obey the word of God. You will see them.
yeah,
Some of them even call themselves Christians of some sort. But what they do is, or even opposing, like if they're atheist or some other denomination, they'll like despise the word of God. They hate it, and they will come against Christians because we follow it. And that's what the battle is at the very end,
yeah.
actually.
Well, a lot of Christians, a lot of these big churches, it's all about money, and they want to be part of the culture. They want to fit into the world, and they offer entertainment
Yeah,
mainly. It's a Christian entertainment industry. It's a lot of money involved in that. All right, so a
30.
Sabbath breaker put to death. All right, God's going to kill more Israelites.
Uh, There should be a game
So,
about that.
I like to say kind of controversial things here. So was God an anti-Semite?
Uh, no.
That would be a
I
good
mean,
video. Do you think could I put that on YouTube and title it "Was God an Anti-Semite"? I want to make that video. Can
yeah,
I
but
make that video?
he's not doing it for their genetic reasons. He's doing it out of their wicked heart. So you can't be anti anything if you're just
But
taking.
he's killing Semites. If there are
No,
some, I don't know if
yeah,
Semites is the right word. He's
yeah.
killing Israelites. Anyone who kills an
Well,
Israelite must
he's
be an
killing his own
anti-Semite.
people. He's killing,
He's killing the chosen people.
well, chosen by faith.
They're
And,
not, oh, wait, they're not really the chosen people. You can't say that. You're not allowed to say that.
well, they are chosen. They just didn't keep the promise.
I think there's like
They're
the
like
elect,
breach of
there's a
contract.
remnant. What's his name? Joshua and Caleb are the remnant
Yeah, but
who
okay,
passed
the
the
thing
test.
is, there's two parallel stories going on. One is by genetic that God chose and promised, and the other ones are grafted in and changed through faith. And
The
he keeps
sojourners.
honoring those through faith, but at the same time, it's not that he's hasn't chosen the chosen. They just didn't live up to their contract obligations. So it's the contract. God is always going to fulfill the contract, right? So he's going to
Yeah.
fulfill it genetic level, but he's also fulfilling it spiritual level by faith. So it's not one or the other, or it's
Book of Galatians, the people of the promise are the people of faith,
they are.
not genetics, not every Israelite, not every person who calls himself an Israelite is an Israelite.
No, I understand, but he does have a parallel story with the 12 tribes that he's going to finish that story. And, like everything, even in the future with the 12 gates, the 12 elders, whatever, or the 24 elders, or 12 something. But he's fulfilling that story in the end. He's not just like letting that go by and then it's just
Yeah,
only,
you know what happened. You know how like in the 8th century BC, the northern 10 tribes kind of vanished.
yeah,
They
they never really
integrated with the
finished.
Gentiles. So what
Yeah,
happened is the Gentiles became Israelites and the Israelites became Gentiles, the northern
yeah,
10
that's all
tribes.
fine.
And
That's all.
then that's how the 12 tribes, that's Romans 9 to 11. That's how the 12 tribes were reunited, is because the Gentiles are now representing the northern 10 tribes.
Yes, but he is gonna, so the whole 144,000, 12,000 of virgin men through each tribe, he knows who they are. We don't
That's
know.
symbolic number, I believe, my
No,
opinion.
no,
Symbolic number. Come on.
no,
All
no,
right.
it's totally literal. But the
That's
point is, he's not done, and I don't think we should assume just because he's given us through faith and through Christ, that doesn't mean he's not going to finish his promise to all the 12 tribes.
yeah, because the
They're not
Gentiles
going
are
to
now
just,
part of that. The Gentiles are these sojourners or Gentiles here, right?
yeah, but sojourners are always sojourners. They're not the natives, and we can't forget about the natives.
No, but they're in covenant. They're in covenant with these people.
That's fine. We're in
They're in
covenant,
covenant with
but
God.
we're not the native. The natives are still going to have a story.
We're the northern 10 tribes
No,
because the northern 10 tribes became Gentiles, and now Gentiles can come into the new covenant. And that by doing
Gentiles
that,
were,
even the 10 tribes have been found, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, which is the northern 10 tribes.
well, they were never
Anyway, that's
lost to
kind of a different
God.
story.
Yeah, yeah, let's finish. Uh, how many more verses on
We got
this?
to talk about the Sabbath breaker
Oh,
put to
yeah, yeah.
death.
Let's put them to
Now
death.
the sons of Israel were in the wilderness, and they found a man gathering wood on the Sabbath day.
Well, he was told not to do it. Come on.
Yeah, so this can't really be by ignorance unless he just woke up, wasn't sure what day it was or something, but it sounds like he's doing this on purpose. And
Yeah.
those who found him gathering wood brought him near to Moses. So the question really is like, was the gathering wood in and of itself
No, I think
considered
it
bad,
was
or he
because
was
of the
gathering wood
Sabbath
for the
day.
purpose. He was going to do some kind of work with the wood. You know what I mean? He was gathering wood for a purpose because he was then going to start a fire, kindle a fire, and then he was going to do some work,
Well,
right?
I don't think it mattered if it was a purpose or not. He wasn't supposed to go do something that was already told to them, at least for a
Yeah,
few years now, don't do stuff. So he
for a
was
year, a
disobedient.
year. They had a year. They're still only like a year, 13, 14 months into
Well,
this.
there were many Saturdays that he was told not to do stuff.
Yeah, we don't know exactly when it doesn't, I don't know that this happened right. There, this whole chapter 15 is a bit out of place chronologically, to be honest.
And that could
But it's,
be years later too. It doesn't even mean years.
yeah, that's true. That's true. It could be. Yeah, but it's placed here for a reason.
Right. Well,
Um,
I think it's showing us life before they enter the promised land, that
okay,
God's
so
covenant was still active.
they put him in custody. So they
Yeah.
basically arrested him
Yeah.
because it had not been declared what should be done to him.
Yeah.
They didn't know it. They put him in custody. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "The man shall surely be put to death,
Okay.
and all the congregation shall stone him with stones outside the camp." What a horrible way to die, if you think about it.
Yeah, that hurts because it's
And then,
slow
like,
death.
everyone that is now throwing stones at you.
Well, not only that, it's making them all murderers. Did you notice that? They have to
Well,
participate in his death.
justice. They're not murderers,
Right.
though, because this is
Well, in
justice.
the killing, right?
Yeah,
They
they're killing them, but
participating in the killing.
they're administrating justice. They're like the jurors,
Yeah,
the
I get
jury
it.
members who sentence somebody to death.
But God's making them all participate
Yeah,
rather
so
than
they're
one
obeying God.
executioner.
For the first time in their life, they're finally obeying God by stoning someone to death.
Yeah. Which just seems kind of harsh just for go picking wood.
Well, it's because it's a high hand. See, it comes right after this passage about the high
Yeah.
hand. We got to put a
Which
box around
means
that.
it's intentional, right?
Yeah, he's not just picking up wood accidentally. He is despising the word of the king.
Yeah, so that's why he did it.
In any country today,
Yeah.
you break the law against the king like this, you pay the
Yeah.
price.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on. He's breaking the law. They put him in custody. They arrested him. He's a criminal,
Yeah.
and they stoned him. I mean, you think they could have been like, hey, all right, there's a fine. You got to pay the fine. But
No,
it's like this, here's the thing. The Sabbath was the sign of the covenant, the sign. It was really the Sabbath. See, the Sabbath is about
right.
resting in the promised land, resting. And even on the seventh day in the Genesis 2, God created the world and then he rested because he had established his kingdom.
But that day was also a holy day because of
It was the most
that.
holy day. It was the day that it was the fulfillment of the promises for a day in a way. They were like, we're resting, we're reigning. It's when God's reigning,
Well,
you
you're
know.
resting in God. That's what Sabbath day was about.
Sabbath is a sign of the covenant. Um, so it was a very important thing, and maybe the most important thing. One, not it wasn't the first commandment. But it's very important. And so he's basically going against,
You went
the
against
laws of
God.
the nation. Yeah, he's going against God. He's
Yeah.
despised right here. It says despise the word of God,
Yeah.
So
Because he knew it, right? That's the thing. He knew it. It wasn't
yeah,
out of ignorance.
he was a lot. And that's probably not the only thing he would have done is just gathering wood. He was just against the whole thing.
Right.
Um, and we saw the other 10 spies were killed for the same kind of thing. They despised
Yeah.
the word of God, basically. So all the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him to death with stones, just as Yahweh had commanded Moses.
All right.
So, if God tells them to do this, they do it. God tells people to kill other people quite a bit. I mean, these are things that people get uncomfortable talking about these things, but they're in the Bible. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not
And
the
there
act of killing, it's the act of justice and mercy,
is
right?
justice. Yeah,
Yeah.
they got it. It's justice and mercy, which we've seen already. Yahweh also spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel." And okay, now look at this mercy right here, which was misused again as usual, but it's mercy. Speak to the sons of Israel and tell them that they shall make for themselves tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and that they shall put on the tassel of each corner a cord of blue. And it shall be a tassel for you to look at and remember all the commandments of Yahweh, so as to do them and not follow after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you played the harlot. There's that fornication, right?
Mhm.
Um, so that you may remember to do all my commandments and be holy to your God. I am Yahweh your God, and brought you out from the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Yahweh your God. Wow, what a
So,
nice way to end it.
yeah, is that the last verse?
That's the end of this chapter.
Oh, okay, great.
And
So,
look, more rebellion next week.
but you know what kind of reminds me now of this blue tassel thing, which they do, they call it tsetse or something like that, right?
Zeet seats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but that whole was supposed to be a reminder with the covenant that they made with God, right? They, what does it just say there? Um,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, right here.
yeah, to remember all the commandments of Yahweh. That's what those tassels are for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they're not doing that,
Zeet seat. Yeah, it didn't work.
huh? Not, I mean,
It
they
didn't
were,
work.
but they're not doing that now because they still do that. You
No,
still
they
have
wore it.
those tassels.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, the thing is though, it started out with good intentions. It was like, okay, this guy like didn't keep the commandments and we had to put him to death. We had to stone him to death, but let's try to prevent that from happening again. So wear the tassels. And it really only works if everybody in the whole community is wearing them, because you see other people's tassels easier than your own. You don't really see your own because you have to be looking down all the time. You don't really
Well,
see
no,
your
it was
own
a
tassels.
personal responsibility to remember the commandments of Yahweh. And it
Yeah,
says
it's a
not to
reminder.
follow after your own heart and your own eyes. So it
Yeah,
was
because
kind
the
of
spy,
reminder
the
for
yeah,
it was a reminder for the person that God is connected to them and they can't just do whatever they want. Like,
yeah, which we saw the all the rebellions really up to this point in the last three chapters were people following their own heart and their own eyes, and they were whoring after other
but
gods,
I
and
am kind of curious why you have to give them another ritual.
well, it just shows. I mean, Galatians basically says the laws were added to kind of to define sin and to point them out and even to
Yeah, to show
increase
our
transgression,
transgression.
to increase
Yeah.
transgressions. So it's like visually showing us like it didn't work. This whole the whole Mosaic covenant, the people kept on breaking it nonstop. No matter how many tassels they wore, no matter what they did, they had a rebellious heart. So yeah, the tassels don't change the human heart, which we saw in Genesis 4 verse Genesis
No, none
6
of
verse
these
5.
rituals will do that because it's the heart that they have to keep in control, right? The tassel was just a reminder for self-control,
Yeah.
not to go. But at the same time, it's adding another visual ritual, right? So it all becomes about that ritual than it is about why that was given in the first
Well,
place.
look at what Jesus says about it. This is Jesus talking to the Pharisees. All right, Matthew 23. Then Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples, saying, "The scribes and their Pharisees have seated themselves in the chair of Moses, right? Therefore, all that they tell you, do and keep, but do not do according to their deeds, for they say things and do not do them. And they tie up heavy burdens and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are unwilling to move them with so much as a finger. But they do all their deeds to be noticed by men, for they broaden their phylacteries. That's the thing on their head.
Yeah.
Um, they were,
And tassels
which
on the,
they were supposed to, they were supposed to remember the verses basically, but they actually tied them to their head and lengthened the
yeah,
tassels of their garments. There it is, right? So the tassels were given them to keep
remember
a
God.
reminder
Yeah.
to remember the commandments and to live them, to do them, to love
Yeah.
God and to love your neighbor, right?
Right.
Those are the commandments.
But they
But they
made it,
use the tassels to get noticed by people.
yeah.
They
Yeah. So
misused
it became their
the
heart
law.
again. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, so anyway, there's the tassels, and there's Jesus talking about how people are misusing the
Yeah.
tassels
But my whole thing is that whole wasn't necessary. The whole tassel thing. So why did God do that?
to
Like, why
increase.
didn't
It
he?
wasn't it wasn't it wasn't the solution. This whole thing is the whole
No,
old
no, I
covenant
know,
is
but I'm
not
saying
the solution.
God's a smart guy, right? We know he's super everything. So this to me doesn't seem all that smart.
Well,
What's the
here's what's
point of
happening
giving
is
them a tassel?
it actually results in this next rebellion because these blue tassels are kind of similar to what the priests wear, the blue.
Yeah, yeah,
So what happened here, which we'll talk about next week, is that now he's saying that this guy Korah, the Levites are saying everyone is holy now because now we got the tassels. We're all priests,
well, that's my
right?
point. I think the whole tassel thing is a distraction and it gets them to sin even more.
Well,
So,
that's what Paul says in Galatians about
okay,
the
but
whole
then
law,
why did God
the
do
whole
that?
thing.
Why did he do that?
Well,
Why did he give
it
them
says
this
it.
command
All right.
knowing
Okay, hold on.
that they were
Okay.
just going to keep doing more crazy
All
stuff?
right. It says it right here. It says it right here. Let me just adjust something here. I'll remove the Greek for you there. All right, here we go. The law. All right, let's just read this. I mean, you need a lot of um
Well, it's
okay.
the
Now the
laws to
promises
show them the
promises given to
transgressions.
Abraham directly by God, not through a mediator. Law came 430 years later, does not invalidate the Abrahamic covenant, which was based on promise. So he's contrasting promise with law, which we've been talking about this whole episode, right?
Yeah.
The promise to Abraham is more important than the law given through Moses. For if the inheritance is by law, it is no longer by promise. But God has granted it to Abraham through promise. Why the law then? Isn't that your question?
No, that's no, no,
I
no.
thought that was your
I mean,
question. Why the
no.
zeet seats? Why the zeet seats then?
Well, that is that is a part of the question. So my question is not that he gave them the law, and I get that is to show their
Why the
transgression.
zeet seats?
Yeah, well, why is it ritual of putting tassels on your
Well,
garments?
I don't know if that's a ritual. That became kind of the part of their clothing. Um,
He told them they had to do it to remind them of his commandments. That was the purpose.
yeah.
It's a reminder. It's like one of those bracelets that people put on or rubber bands, to remind them of doing stuff. He just gave them a tassel. But I'm saying, as a smart God that he is, why? That was so unnecessary. Because we knew
Um,
they were not going to do it.
the law reveals our sin. The law reveals, and even kind of, we just saw how in the New Testament Jesus is saying you guys are using the tassels to build yourself up
Yeah,
and
well,
not
that
to.
was
So
that was easy to happen, right?
this is to bring people to repentance, really. Well, let's just read what this says. What does Paul say? Paul knows more than I do. Why the
Mhm.
law then? It was added because of. Now, there's some people think, because of or for the purpose of. There's different ways to understand this word because of, to show us our problem, to show that we're lawbreakers.
Well, it's to
The law
show
was
their
designed to fail.
transgressions.
The law, it was added because of trespasses. Now, it doesn't say sin, actually. It doesn't say sin. I think one of my notes might even help
Yeah, I
me.
think it's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Trespasses versus
It's
sin.
actually, he could have used the word sin, but he did not. Um,
Well, it's meant to say transgressions, right? Your transgressions.
it's not meant to say it's a Greek word. originally.
But maybe in other
Um,
translation it says because of your transgressions,
it's just transgressions, but it's not sin. The main point is doesn't say it's added because of sin. So
right?
a trespass or transgression or a trespass is kind of slightly different than the actual sin. Um, so anyway, but having been ordained through angels by the hand of a mediator, that's the law, until the seed will come to whom the promise has been made. So the law is like a temporary thing. Now, a mediator is not for one person. Okay, God is one. Is the law then contrary to the promises of God? May it never be. First, the law has been able to impart life. Righteousness would indeed be by the law. Righteousness is not by the law, as we can see clearly in the book of Numbers so far, right?
Yeah,
Uh, but the scripture has shut up everyone under sin, their sin,
yeah,
so that this is the law and the prophets, the Torah, so that the promise by faith in Jesus Christ might be given to those who believe.
yeah.
So it basically condemns people of sin.
Yes, that's the
So the
purpose of the law.
promise, see, it's the law shows reveals sin,
Well, that's
condemns
the same
us.
thing as any legal law system,
We're
right?
guilty of sin, and then the promise by faith in Jesus Christ comes after everyone has been condemned by sin. The promise comes. Before faith came, we were held in custody. There's the same word we just saw, right?
Yeah,
Custody under the law, being shut up for the forthcoming faith to be revealed. Therefore, the law has become our tutor. A tutor is like a babysitter, like a temporary,
yeah.
temporary under Christ, so that we may be justified by faith. But now that faith has come, we are no longer under a tutor. Are we still? So the tutor, the law became our tutor. We are no longer under the
So
law.
maybe the tassels was a tutor.
That's
Each,
what it was. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
You're all sons of God through faith in Jesus Christ, not through keeping the law.
right.
Um, if you belong to Christ, you're Abraham's seed, heirs according to promise, not according to the law.
No, no, I
Right.
understand the law part. I'm just thinking about the ritual of the tassel. But I think in what this chapter is saying is that it's is like a guide or a tutor for those that were under the law.
Yeah, this was I mean, you know,
I mean, because
it's just kind of it's
they already knew about the commandments. They've been told
the
every single
yeah,
day. So I don't
the only
actually,
thing that helps people is if the spirit comes into our heart. That's the new covenant, right? Which is prophesied in the Old Testament in Jeremiah 30, 31, for example. And but that's he's not doing that yet. He's kind of like he could have just put the Holy Spirit on everyone's heart, and then that would have been Jesus could have died back then for these people.
so it's
It's
just
not
kind
how
of
it played
like,
out.
yeah.
It's a
So it's an
slow.
external reminder, still a physical thing, not a spiritual thing.
It's like here's another idea. Let's try this. Nope, that didn't work. Let's try this. Nope, that didn't work
Yeah.
either. What are we gonna do? Oh no, I guess I'll have to send my son to die
Different
for you guys.
castles. Well,
You
all
know,
right. We
I
did
mean,
a lot.
we see in people, the Hebrew roots people, Gentiles are wearing tassels
Well, they are kind
now.
of cool. I kind of wanted to do that for a little
Jews
while.
wear the tassels still now, I think, or
No, they
certain
still
Jews.
do. They still sell those shirts
Yeah.
with tassels and stuff
Um, but there's a lot. We kind of
because
running out
they
of
don't
time.
have the new covenant in them, so they are going to continue with the tassels, right? Because you don't need the tassels today if you
Yeah.
enter into the new covenant.
Yeah.
That's why you
But
still
yeah, they're not doing them any good though. They're still
no, but you
sinning,
know what? Those tassels are a visual reminder of what happened in this chapter.
but it doesn't work. They're
No, of
still
course
sinning,
not. But
but
I'm
they
just
look
saying
good.
it's a
They look righteous. That's what really counts.
well, no, because I think, yeah. But I mean, the point is, it's the old versus a new world. You can still visualize. So when they don't know if the story of the Bible is true, some of these people are still carrying over those traditions, right? So you know where that happened. It happened right here, right here. right?
Yeah, this is when they
Children.
did the tassels thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And it was
we're gonna see it
after,
it actually causes more problems. It
right.
doesn't solve anything. It doesn't do them any good at
But do
all.
you realize that the tassels is a result of breaking the Sabbath of that person
Yeah.
there that died?
Yeah. That's how it's laid out here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a good intention there, but but it's the human rebellion is what the problem. The law is not the problem. The law is good. God gave the
Yeah.
law, do these righteous things, but people were rebellious. So the solution isn't to give them more laws or to tell them to try a little harder. They just the
Yeah.
human heart is rebellious. It goes back to the Genesis
You know
6,
that
what we just saw,
tassel
evil
traditional,
of man. The what?
like
Tassel.
graduation, the
Oh
tassel.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wonder if that got somehow mixed up with some of this
That's
stuff.
a weird, that's kind of a Masonic thing or something, right?
Yeah. Which
The
they
whole
picked it up from biblical thing because they just
there
twisted.
I saw a video on that a long time ago, like the square hat,
Yeah.
there's something weird going on there. The
Yeah,
robe,
we
it's all very
do.
creepy.
Right.
That's a weird thing. Yeah, I don't know I don't remember the details of that, but
All
yeah,
right.
so anyway, the evil of man, right? The intents and thoughts of his heart. So the heart is the root of the problem.
It
The
always is
tzitzis aren't
because
going to
our
help that.
yeah, because our hearts are wicked, right? So
And
what
God
does the
knew that.
world?
God knew that seeds weren't really going to help him, but he's just kind of stringing them along.
No, what I kind of understand what he's doing now is that all of this, all the rituals of all the commandments that he had in the wilderness was a visual reminder of what sin is and what the
Yeah,
consequences were. Where today it's a spiritual thing, you transform your heart, whatever. But back then they had to be shown. So the blood, imagine the blood of
it's a
all that.
tutor. Yeah,
Uh,
they're killing animals, poor animals, right? Left and right. But they would eat most of them. I think they ate
no,
them, not all of
it
them.
wasn't even that. It was just
They would eat them.
it was if you're representing sin with all that blood that would show.
Yeah. And then even the sacrifices, they just see they turned the law into an idol in a way. They're
Yeah.
like, hey, look at me. I'm sacrificing and I'm wearing my seats and I'm keeping the Sabbath. Look at how
But they
holy and
don't
special.
know
And then
that
they're still sinning on the side. And then
right,
God says,
because
I despise your Sabbaths. I despise your sacrifices because their heart is still wicked. You have to circumcise our heart, is the issue.
yeah, so imagine like look at the visual representations that's going on. So you got all this blood shedding with the animal sacrifices in the wilderness, which I think it represents what God was saying at the end days with that valley of uh, Je Japheth or whatever. What the blood was going to go up to so high, the girdles of the horses and
Oh,
stuff.
in Revelation?
Yeah. So that I think is symbolic because of the bloodshed that had to be because of the sin. It's showing you visually how much bloodshed and how much killing. And then you have all the people that he was taking care of in the middle, but they were still rebelling. And then the same rebellious spirit, like, okay, they got their tassels, they got the commandments, but then when Jesus came, what were they saying to them? Crucify. There was a whole crowd saying, crucify him, crucify him. You see? So their heart never got better to the point they were going to kill God. The same
And they were
spirit
and they
of
were all
what's
wearing tassels.
yeah. So imagine them trying to be godly, right?
They kept the Sabbath, they kept the food
Yeah.
laws, and they wore the tassels,
And then the
and they
tassels
killed
got
Jesus.
longer. They got
And they killed
longer
Jesus.
and they killed
They
Jesus
killed Jesus while keeping the food laws, while
while wearing the
keeping the Sabbath,
tassels.
and wearing the and the tassels. They're doing all the
Yeah.
external things, but not the internal things.
That's why God put all these visual representations. That's why.
He's a
Because
mastermind.
yeah. Yeah.
But we can learn from that. I mean, we don't have time to, but there's so
Yeah,
many
yeah.
New Testament passages about this
This is totally
rebellion.
connected to later on, all this stuff. You just have to visualize, okay, from all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sacrifices to all the in Revelation, how all that blood's going to show up again. So I think it's kind of cool. I don't know. I mean, I didn't get the tassel thing before, but I get it now. All
yeah.
right, we covered a lot. And I know you have to go to church.
So next week again is more rebellion, and this time from Korah, one of the Levites starts a rebellion.
So what's the next theme of the next three chapters?
Rebellion.
Just all right. More rebellion. All right.
I think at least 16 is. We got rebellion. We got grumblings and plague. Yes.
Great.
We got rebellion, grumbling, and plague,
Oh.
and then
Oh.
rosebuds. Kind of see, there's like
Rosebud.
there's two chapters of rebellion, and then kind of
Yeah.
one chapter of a kind of atonement kind of thing or something.
Really
So
curious about the rod the buds.
you're thinking about the thumbnails already.
No, I was thinking about the story of a rosebud. I wonder if that's connected at all.
I don't know. But
Anyway,
anyway.
well, I
All
think this
right.
is a very good study. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. And people watching, leave your comments. Um, maybe at the end of the book of Numbers, we can take a look at comments or something,
Well, we could try to
questions.
do a live just for the end of the book and see people who watch it. I know they watch more of your show, so we probably should do a live on your show instead of mine. 'Cause you'll get
I just
like,
did I did a podcast the other day using Restream,
yeah.
and I could have streamed it live on my channel as well.
Well, we can do that if you already have
We'll
your
have to do a test drive.
want to do the
So
next one
let
on
me
your
know.
channel live.
We could try. Yeah, I'll have to try to I'll figure out how to do it.
We could do a
And
test
we
5 minute thing to test it out.
well, we could test out even without going live. I think we could test it out if it's
All
a new
right.
platform, and then we just do it live. The real time. The thing is, and I might get like comment. We'd have to look at the comments as well as they come in.
Uh, as long as it
Um,
doesn't echo or anything, I can look at the comments. The only reason I couldn't do it, and that's why I'm not using live, because if I have any of those YouTube sites on, it starts to get that feedback. So I couldn't look at it
yeah,
real time.
yeah.
But if you figured all that out, I could probably read the
Okay.
comments. And
If I have time this week, I'll try to figure it out. I'll let you know,
all
and
right.
then we'll maybe test it out the day before or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, like you have way more followers that'll watch you in real time, so it makes more sense.
We'll
Um,
see. And Friday, it's good to get a weekly routine, like if it's on the same time,
yeah, I'm good with Friday
Friday
night.
night U.S. time, if people are done with their work week, they can
Yeah.
kind of, you
Well,
know,
we can try different days and see which days they like more. And they probably can tell you in comments, hey,
well, I think
Fridays.
Friday night is good. Whatever is good for you and for me, because we're the ones doing it.
Yeah,
I mean,
Friday
most
night's
people
good.
will watch it later, to be honest,
Yeah.
but for any live stream, you don't get a lot of people watching it live,
Yeah, I
but
see them more watching later than they did live.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
fine.
I
I'm good
kind of for
with
even
Fridays.
today, I forgot. I almost thought it was live the whole time we did this because
Well, that's good
feels like
though,
we
because
are.
it'll be better when it's live, when you think it's.
Yeah, yeah. Either way, either way, I think it's fine. Yeah, we'll try.
We'll
We'll
try
try to
one live on your show
we'll try
just
it.
to see if it makes any difference. Otherwise, I'm fine with what we're doing.
Yeah, the only thing because like I have to really concentrate on reading and trying to figure out what it means and all that stuff, and then managing the live stream is a
I
whole
know, well,
different
that was hard for me
mentality.
too. Right. Well, we don't
Yeah,
have to do that. I think
technical
it's,
problems. No, I
yeah,
like the idea of it,
yeah.
and we should
Well,
try to
let's
do
see
it.
how it goes. Because once you hit live on your channel and it doesn't have that issues, it should just be natural like what we're doing now. And
And
I
I
can,
think you could also stream live on your channel as well at the same time. That's what Restream
oh,
does. You can stream live on multiple channels, different people's channels.
oh, let's try that then. Let's
You could
do,
stream live on both of them at the same
yeah,
time, which
that
will
would
be
be
even
awesome.
a little more technical as well, but
Well, I
try it
think you
out.
just have to put I have to get the ID from YouTube or something and put it in your thing to restream.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll work on it this week and I have to
yep.
go now.
All
So,
right.
All right. Thanks a lot, and
Thank
see
you.
you
I'll
next
see you next
week.
week. Bye.
All right. Bye.